Hi. Today I wanted to go over a topic that has been something I've been thinking about for a long time, which is whether or not Guilty Gear is actually a hard game. I think Guilty Gear is actually a very easy game, and part of the reason why I was attracted to Exerd in particular is that it was really easy to do stuff. The floor to doing stuff in this game is really low, and most characters have very simple combos and very universal combos, partially due to the size of their attacks and the general way things work in the system, but also due to how freeform the game is. A lot of the difficulty in this game comes from making up for errors or adjusting so that things are stable. And I think that's a really cool, really interesting form of difficulty, but it seems like not everybody feels that way. So, to give a better idea of what I'm talking about, I resorted to that most hated of all fighting game content, which is a tier list. So I have it here, and I've got the tiers out, and we'll go through this one character at a time, and I'll explain why I feel each of these characters is really difficult or easy or whatever, and how they settle in the general layout of the game. One thing to keep in mind is that these characters are not listed alphabetically, or they are listed alphabetically up until about Slayer. From about Slayer to the end, I've examined the roster and taken out the characters whom I think have the perception of being the hardest. Not who are necessarily, but who have the perception of being the hardest. So the distribution on those may surprise you. The rest are just alphabetic. First of all, let's go over the tiers. The top, the most character difficulty, comes from having unstable mandatory routes that you have to interact with. If there's some alternate route, then, or if some universal concept, you can downgrade your character's difficulty very, very much. But there are some characters in this game that have to do the hard stuff and they can't get away from it. Below them are characters who have difficulty that vary by weight class, usually. And in Exerd, there are like 3 weight classes. There's lightweights, middleweights, and heavyweights. And then there's some variance within that. Like Leo and Johnny are heavy middleweight characters. They're the 2 heaviest middleweights. And then there's like Millia and Jam, who are the lightest lightweights. But I think Elphelt is slightly heavier than them. Or maybe Ram is. Hurtbox shape also comes into it. Then we have stable character specific routes or optional unstable routes. And this is overall easier, I think, but this is for characters who have one stable thing that they do on one particular character, or something that is unstable that they can go for if they want. Basically, for each character, either you have the universal thing, which you know is good and you know will work, or you go for something that may or may not work, but has some bigger reward. Below that, we have characters who have a choice of going for a stable or unstable route in most situations. And then we have characters who are basically as hard, in the same bracket of difficulty as the previous 2 tiers, but who have basically one combo, and they just want to go into that combo as much as they possibly can. Underneath them, we have the easiest characters in the game, who have mostly universal routes with a few exceptions, and characters who you could literally sleep combo with. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'm gonna break from tradition, or break from the row here, and put Raven, my character, in combo in your sleep tier. My favorite tier. I love characters in this tier. I hate doing combos, my execution sucks, and no matter how easy the combo is, I will find a way to drop it. So, yeah, Raven is a combo in your sleep kind of character. Why is he, though? Well, first of all, there are a few different reasons why combos are easy or hard in this game, and the general reason as to what makes combos easy or hard is how frequently you can cut through all the chaos of the game and do the same thing in different situations. Raven does occasionally get these long-range air hits where it doesn't quite work, or, things don't really work the way that he wants them to. Usually, like, his anti-airs will, strangely enough, his anti-airs are usually a source of that, if it does happen, but it's very, very rare. And in all cases, you can just do a simpler combo and just end in like the same special move on block or on hit. It's really easy. One other thing to keep in mind about Raven is that because he has Scratch, which is that giant move that looks like a Nike symbol, just do it, he can basically combo off of anything if he gets a counter hit or if he connects with a long range H button. So, like, his normals are really good, and they do help him combo a lot because they reach like 30% more than most other characters. But the reason why he combos off of everything so consistently is actually because of Scratch on the ground or in the air. It's just really, really stable. Now we'll go from the top here. Answer. A character that people don't really play that much, but I, based on my limited experience playing against him and barely any experience playing as him, am going to put him in here. I think Answer is generally one of the more difficult characters in the game to play, and my reasoning for that is he has access to a lot of the simple things that other characters do, like close slash into sweep, or 2K 2D, or whatever. And he has access to some pokes that he can't quite combo off of as easily as he would want to. Like if you look at Answer 2S, that button is huge and it's plus, but maybe it doesn't combo as much as you want it to. However, when Answer does get the opportunity to do a combo, he's usually either spending meter, like on card Yellow Roman Cancel, card YRC, or on just like a RRC, or he's trying to root in to the jungle gym, the scrolls. Sorry, I call it the jungle gym. I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It's because it looks like a jungle gym. It just makes sense to me. So when you're trying to combo into that with the scrolls spaced out wherever they are on the screen, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And that kind of thing is affected by how the character's weight interacts with Answer's combo, as well as the shape of the character's hurt box. And for characters who are small, like May and Millia, it can be hard. That's my experience anyway. I definitely see a lot less stable set play from Answer than I do from other characters who operate with similar speed and similar ranges. So I think he's up here. I think the majority of what he wants to do off of like his high damage bread and butter combos are like 2H. No, sorry, it's like 6K, 2H, scroll set, jump, air sequence. And that's pretty stable. But if you're spaced out at all, or if you don't have the opportunity to get like a running dash momentum 6K, or a running dash momentum 2H, it just doesn't work. Also, Answer 6P is very good, but it hits really high up. And if you try to do 6P 2H scroll set jump combo, that tends to drop because characters tended to be too high. So even when you do actually manage to anti-air somebody in this game, it's not always guaranteed. And that's one of the strongest things Answer has going for him is how good his normals are. So not being able to combo off of them and sometimes just dropping through no fault of your own is why I put him up here. Not like bad, like this is still a fairly easy thing to combo, but this is how I think of him. Then we've got Axel, and I put him in this tier just underneath Answer. I say this because Axel is a character who does one combo in like the vast majority of his ground pressure, which is comboing into sweep or comboing into Rensen if you're in the corner. Because if you're in the corner, he wants to do Rensen down, which is the damage one, which gives him a safe jump on most characters. Or he just wants to combo into sweep and then continue applying pressure with his long range plus frame normals, or just annoying you from a distance. Aside from that, if Axel hits you, it's because he's doing an anti-air, and his combos off of anti-airs are generally pretty stable. However, because inherently, who knows what's going on in the air, you don't necessarily have the ability to reliably hit confirm into the good combo. You might just have to do like one or two buttons into Axel Bomber, and that kind of sucks. The reason why I put him up of like here, as opposed to having like mostly universal roots with some exceptions, is because Axel does actually have a fairly nuanced combo structure if you're willing to recognize the hit and go for it. Mostly because of Axel Bomber and doing TK Axel Bomber loops. Now, there is an input trick to make doing TK Axle Bomber very easy. It's a bit weird if you're on leverless. I think it's just easier if you're on leverless. But if you're on stick, there's this input trick you can do where if, imagine like this, imagine the corner of this is the center of the stick. Instead of going 6 to 3 up and trying to do it that way, you can just do 6 and then spin the stick in a circle, end on 3 and push S. And if you time it properly, you're in the air and the game looks at 3S and says, okay, what was in your input history? 6, 2, 3S. Oh, you obviously wanted Axle Bomber. Yes, the input interpreter really works like that. So doing the TK Axle Bomber, not hard. If you're willing to grind it. I do think it has some degree of failure simply because it has weird timing, and because of the way hit stop works in this game, if you're jump canceling from normals that have different attack levels, the jump cancel timing feels different. But overall, this is one small thing of Axel's combo game. I say that he's up here because you can either do a reliable anti-air, or you can either do an Axle Bomber route, which might not be practical in the same situation, but you can do an Axle Bomber route off of a Roman cancel or something, and then that quickly becomes character specific and like distance specific, and whether you get 2 versus 3 bombers, or whether you have time to do like air gatlings into jump D, into restand, into jump another air sequence, like that stuff quickly becomes character specific or only viable in particular situations. Axel feels very stable, and I think he generally very is. Honestly, there's an argument to be made that he's down here in mostly universal routes, but like, I don't think that preemptively anti-airing somebody or preemptively poking somebody and converting into like 2 or 3 hits into a special move is like the entirety of your combo game. Like Raven does that, Faust arguably does that, but it's not literally all they do. And that's the same with Axel, because he has Axle Bomber, and he also has Sparrowhawk stance to a lesser extent. So that's where I'd put him. Mostly stable, but sometimes you have this really weird difficulty spike if you want to go for it, or maybe you have to go for it, or maybe your combo just drops because your opponent is too high. Next up is Baiken, and Baiken is an interesting character in this game because people perceive her as being this like legacy cool character. Right? She's got these huge normals, and she's got these big flopping hitboxes that she wants to attack you with. And what was I saying? Sorry, my mind was wandering. Anyway, I'd put her in roughly the same tier as Axel. The reason for this is that most of Baiken's combos are very universal, very easy stuff, like gatlings into sweep, or if you're too far away for sweep to connect, or if you don't want to do sweep, you can do like RS5H, or just like 5H into Suzerain into the H follow-up, which I believe is Rokon Sogi, which is the dashing sword slash. And that's generally consistent. If you're at like max range, it doesn't work, but I think in most cases it does, and it's very easy to do. Gatlings into a special move, you get a knockdown due to Tommy, plus frames, etc. Now, if you're in the air, things are a little different, because Baiken has very simple air combos. In the middle of the screen, she just does Gatlings into jump D, and that knocks down from anywhere because this character is for children and monkeys. And then she can do Tatami afterwards, and meet you with Tatami from basically anywhere on the screen. Now, this is not an Oki tier list. This is just a combo tier list. I'm just talking about combo difficulty. So, the fact that Baiken has a stable combo, which works on basically anybody mid-screen, and is great. That puts her up here. And the fact that she gets Oki is going to mean that she gets more stable combos because she's inherently running things, right? However, I don't want to conflate having good combos that lead to Oki, or having good Oki, with just having good combos and just being easy in general. Because there are characters who have really simple Oki because, I mean, in Baiken's case, she has like a 6k that's throw invincible, so she just never has to have any trouble with wake up throw, which is the primary defensive mechanic in this game. Anyway, it's easy to do her mid-screen combos, it's easy to do her ground combos, and they both lead into stable Oki so that you can more reliably get better combos, right? The reason why so like that's the stable character specific stuff or stable general stuff. The reason why I'm talking about optional unstable routes is that if you have a corner combo with Baiken, either because you throw your opponent in the corner or because you do TK Yozansen RRC, which launches, then you go into a dust loop, and her version of the dust loop, again, quickly becomes very difficult if you want to do the really, really difficult ones. Honestly, there's an argument to be made that she should be belonging here, because even with the dust loop stuff, where you do Gatlings into jump dust, it wall bounces, and then you do air dash, Gatlings, jump dust, wall bounces, and then the easy version of that is you land and you do like 5H or something into Suzerain uppercut, and that's generally fairly stable. That's fairly universal. But if you want to do 2 dusts, you would do throw, Gatlings, jump D, air dash, Gatlings, jump D, land, re-jump, Gatling, jump D, Gatling, jump D, ender. And that stuff is difficult to make work. I don't think it's a huge problem for Baiken because she has Azami, which is one of the best scramble options I've ever seen in any fighting game ever. So she's never really that afraid to just roll the dice and see what happens, because she's probably going to kill you. But if you want to do a combo, you want to do the combo properly, right? Overall, I would say that the majority of Baiken's combos are pretty simple, but if you want to do more than like one universal route on everybody, you will probably have to interact with either a stable character-specific something or some optional thing that's unstable. Next up is Bedman, and strangely enough, I seem to put all of these characters near the front of the alphabet in this tier. The reason why I put Bedman here is because he's sort of a 2-step setup character, and the rest of the time he's zoning. People perceive Bedman as having not very good combos because if he doesn't have a good setup, and if he's not comboing you near to the ground, he generally doesn't get a knockdown. And as I've said before with other characters, you must always bear in mind that Exerd is a game about doing okizeme, not about doing combos. So even though Bedman might be able to air-to-air you with jump P, and then convert into jump S, hover, jump S, spin, or Beyblade as people call it, it's not going to knock down in a lot of cases, and that hampers his ability to run Oki and his ability to stabilize the match into situations where he gets more reliable combos. Therefore, Bedman does not always have the same control over the game that you would want in a zoner. You look at a character like Venom, he's always in control. And if you leave him alone, then he gets to set up and pollute the screen and whatever. Bedman is a little worse at doing that, but he's a little better at moving around. So overall, that's like non-combo stuff. Again, this is just a combo difficulty list. I'd say that if you want to do Bedman's combos, the first one is really easy. If you get a ground hit or something, you go into sweep and you go into Beyblade on the ground, and then you're running Oki, and if your opponent gets hit by that Oki, it's probably going to convert into something. Which is the like easy stuff that's not really affecting his placement. The stable character-specific stuff I'm talking about is actually fairly similar to Baiken in that he gets a throw combo in the corner. So that varies a little bit by character, but you generally have something that's like stable for most characters and then something else that's stable for lightweights, or you have to do something like really hard against some other character. I think I haven't actually looked at Bedman's combos, but when I see Bedman players do that kind of stuff, it seems like it generally works. Like, if you do the combo and if you know the route, it works. Freestyling into combos is difficult with this character, and I think that's true in most situations. He just puts things on the screen in weird spots, and that inherently makes it a little less controlled than you might like. Again, you compare him to a character like Venom. Venom has total control over everything he's doing at every opportunity, and he knows exactly where everything is going to go. With Bedman, his ability to do that is less, and so I think it's harder for him to put things in good spots and combo off of them. He's also, like, not amazing at comboing off his ground pokes, which is something I should also clarify that is true of most of these other characters. Baiken has 2H, which is good, but, like, Faust is, like, not amazing. Like, it's perfectly average. Axel basically just goes into Rensen. Answer goes into sweep or he goes into Resho, which is his little palm thrust thing. With Bedman, if you just randomly tag somebody with Far Slash, I don't know what your combo is. Maybe sweep? Maybe that's it. I don't know. There's the argument to be made that Bedman is sort of down in here, choice of stable or unstable. But I think when you can't do a combo with Bedman, you really can't do a combo with him. With some other characters, you might look at this and say, well, I can't get this air hit well, so I'm just going to do a single jump D and take the knockdown. Or this combo looks weird, I'm going to cut it short, I'm going to do Axle Bomber, and I'm going to go for anti-airs. With Bedman, it's like, well, I anti-aired somebody with an air-to-air jump P, but he's slightly above me, so I don't know if I can combo properly or whatever. And if you can't combo, it's just really, really awkward. Or I randomly OTG'd somebody with a move because the projectile traveled like 2 additional frames compared to what I thought it was going to, and therefore the combo drops. Oh, before I move on to Chipp, speaking of combo drops, actually, I can do that with Chipp, because Chipp is the first character that I'm putting up in this tier here. When your combo drops is another huge factor in this game. What happens when your combo drops is a huge factor. What happens when your combo drops is a huge factor in this game. And that's the main reason that I put Chipp up in here. Because if you're Chipp, what he wants to do in this game is be highly mobile, run around, annoy you, and generally like control you and contain you by doing a lot of stuff that's hard to challenge, but semi-rewarding or like not that rewarding. And if he makes a mistake, and this is not just the neutral decision making, but also converting off of a hit, if he goes for a combo that doesn't work, if he tries to get an air hit into a ground hit, if he tries to do something and it just does not work out for him because his opponent's too far away, or his opponent's too lightweight, or he inputs something wrong, then it's a disaster, and you get to tech buttons at Chipp, and his life is miserable. If you look at the primary combos that Chipp has, he's got like close S, sweep, that kind of stuff. But he also doesn't have the far S sweep Gatling, which I think is the first character on the list. Not sure if Baiken has it. Far S into sweep is an amazing combo stabilizer in this game. Chipp does not have it. He has 2S sweep, and that's mostly the same, but it's not far S sweep. Also, all of his normals are like really weirdly stubby. So he's got like 6P and 5H, which cover basically the space in front of his head. And then he's got like close S, which covers the same distance as them. And then he's got far S and 2S, which basically cover the same space. And then he's got sweep, which goes out like a third longer than any of them. So he doesn't have like a lot of nuance for poking around, which makes sense because he's a really fast character. But the way this affects his combos is that if he gets a combo, it's like one hit into a sweep, and then he's running Oki. Again, Exords is an Oki-focused game. The reason why this matters for Chipp is because for him to do Oki and for him to contain you is like that's its own theory of combo rooting. When you have Chipp, you don't always have the luxury of getting a hit and then thinking, yes, I've studied this exact situation. I will choose the knockdown. And even if you do get the knockdown, it's not necessarily a good one. Because the way that he knocks down is by rooting into jump D in the air. And jump D will have different knockdown advantage depending on his height, right? And whether he can cover you with a projectile, like Shuriken on the way down, is going to be dependent on whether he has the good Shuriken. Because in this game, and the older games, he has a Shuriken, and the first one in the round is always slow, and it alternates between being slow and being fast, and then slow and fast. So there's a lot of stuff that he doesn't necessarily have practical control over. And here's the main thing about Chipp that makes him difficult. I would say he's the first character in here, maybe Answer, who actually has something like executionally difficult about his combos that you need to do if you want to do the combos. So if we compare like Raven, I know his structure very well. If you want to do if you get an air hit with Raven, and if you want to do damage, you do Gatling into jump S, jump SH, scratch. Period. It just works. If you want to do a knockdown, you Gatling into jump SD. Knocks down, works, period. No fuss. With Chipp, if you get a nice anti-air hit, or say that you frame trap somebody with close slash, right? Well, let's say that you get an anti-air hit and your opponent's in the air and you want to choose between a knockdown and damage. What you have to do is jump install, which means that your inputs would be like 6p, hit confirm, tap up, close slash, overwrite that jump cancel by pushing down H or 2H, Gatling it to 2H, special cancel into a teleport, which is usually H teleport, teleport up next to your opponent, and if you did it properly, then the game saw that jump cancel that you attempted, and it sees that you're going into the air, so it sees that you are airborne after trying to jump, therefore you get air actions. If you don't do this, then all Chipp can do out of his teleport is an air dash. And that's not bad, but it doesn't let you combo. So if you want to combo at all, you need to do a very finicky, weird input. And then you have to do the combo after. Now the combo after is generally fairly stable. It's like H teleport into jump S, jump S, jump SH, beta blade. That's what his uppercut is called. But if you wanted to do a knockdown, you would get like jump D, and then you'd be sort of flying above your opponent's head, sailing away in this direction as your opponent hits the ground like here. So maybe you don't get good Oki anyway. Also, if at any point you mess up this jump cancel, the combo just drops. And if you think you did the jump cancel, but you didn't, you'll try to do a combo and it won't work. And if you try to do a combo against some character with a weird hurt box, which is probably Elphelt or Millia or May, you know, the usual suspects, then you're going to do the air sequence into Beta Blade, and Beta Blade might whiff. And at that point, your opponent gets to tech out below you while you're still up here whiffing Beta Blade, and you get punished. It's also worth noting that the normals that Chipp uses to jump install can be any jump cancelable normal. In Exerd, they made it a little more focused around doing close slash for punishes and 5p for like air juggles. But overall, even if you're not doing all the jump cancel stuff, which I think is like inherently unstable, it requires, like Chipp just requires a lot of inputs to do all of his combos and chaining together a lot of moves that work in weird ways. If you go into his combo trials and you try to do something like air alpha blade into wall cling, into down alpha blade into a combo, you'll see that like it just feels really weird, and that all of these moves have really weird, like unusual or deceptive delays to when you can act after them and when you have to do a follow-up. And so there are some characters in this game, this is a bit of a tangent, everything here's a tangent, but this is a bit of a tangent within a tangent. There are some characters in this game who had like hard techniques in legacy games like the XX games, and the developers in Exerd decided to keep those techniques sort of, but also make them easier. So for instance, the way that Chipp inputs wall cling is that you go next to a wall and you push away from the wall and then towards it. I believe that's it. It's been a while since I did the combo trials. With the thing about doing alpha in alpha blade, like air alpha blade, which goes horizontally into a wall cling, is that you might think you'd have to do the alpha blade, and as he's sort of coming out of it, you would have to like tap to get him to go onto the wall. You actually don't. You can just hold punch, or whatever button it is to use the alpha. I think it's punch, or maybe it's S. And then you just cling to the wall automatically. This is not described anywhere in the game as far as I'm aware, but maybe it's on Dustloop, I don't know. Don't get me started on Dustloop, that's a tangent for another time. If it is on Dustloop, it's not in the game, and I've seen Chipp players who played the character for months and months and years who did not know that. Because why would it work that way, right? And if we are going to put stuff in the game where you can just chain these two particular moves together, why, like, what's the problem here? Like, what's the point? Why is there difficulty if you're just going to put this hidden thing in to make it easier? Johnny's actually has something like that. We'll get to him later. But anyway, so to summarize, Chipp has inherently a very unstable game plan where he's running around a lot and connecting with moves in weird ways. A lot of his moves are kind of stubby, or if they are large, they're like really the only thing he has at that range. A lot of his combos involve chaining together instant air dashes, special moves, and other things that don't necessarily hit all the characters in the same way. And even in simple situations, like doing Alpha Blade into the elbow thing after, Alpha Blade into Alpha Plus, that is not as consistent as you might think. Something like 5H into Alpha Blade, not as consistent as you might think, because Alpha Blade has travel time, so if you're a few pixels too far away, it's like one additional frame and he travels farther, and it doesn't combo. The final thing I want to say about Chipp is that he has these meter dump combos he can do in the corner, which involves 6H, which is jump cancelable, and then you jump cancel it, and you don't do a jump install, you do jump cancel, jump startup, you do a jump cancel out of 6H, and then you cancel your jump startup into blitz, and you do a partial charge blitz. And that combo wall splats your opponent, and then you can do another 6H, another jump cancel into blitz, etc. I don't think that this is really an expected mechanic. I think Chipp is like one of the only characters who actually has a use for it. But that is also a very weird timing, and he has like, 3 frames of jump startup, so you can't buffer into it. Because if you do the 6H and you push up, and then you're a couple frames too early, the game just won't give you the blitz, and if you're too late, then you'll do an air button. So it's just a 3-frame window that you just have to hit, no buffer. So that's Chipp. Moving on, we have Elphelt, everybody's golden girl. I don't think you're going to be surprised that she goes into the combo in your sleep category. If you've ever watched anything Elphelt does in this game, if you've ever touched Elphelt yourself, if you've ever played her, done anything with her, then you know this character has not only a lot of moves that are very stable, but also has very simple, very direct ways to combo off of her pokes. And no matter what hit she gets anywhere on the screen, she has at least one thing she can do. And even if she can't, like say that she's doing an air-to-air with jump D, and it hits at like max range, she can still get the knockdown and still do Oki. So it's not like there's a scramble afterward. Seriously, try going in, if you're watching this and you want to know how easy Elphelt is, go into her combo trials and find the one that is a close / anti-air, or maybe it's air-to-air jump P. I think it's close / anti-air, and you'll see the combo is close / jump PS, double jump PSH, delay D. And that Gatling chain, maybe with like 1 jump P additional, is totally universal, totally height independent across like everywhere you could possibly hit with close / against every character. And if you're hitting with close / and for some reason your opponent just like reels back too much and you don't want to do another thing, or don't want to go immediately into a jump cancel, you can just do close / counter hit and then like hold forward, micro walk, close / and then just go into that combo again. And that is her bread and butter combo. It's just the simplest thing in the world. It's totally fumble proof. It's like you push 1, 2, 3, 4 and the combo just does itself. In the corner, when she's pressuring you with shotgun, her shotgun combos are a little tighter in that you have to charge the shotgun and then manually reload it and then manage the charge and the reload and everything. It's really not hard. Comboing off of far slash is not difficult, not terribly difficult. On standing opponents, you do 5H mash. It's either 5H immediate cancel into bridle on first hit, or it's 5H mash if you don't want to put any effort into hit confirming. On crouching hits, it's far S into 2H, and you can get full combos off of that. They're like all roads lead to combos and knockdowns with her, and they're totally universal. They work on every character. And while you're doing this, you're just throwing grenades everywhere. You're throwing the grenade everywhere. It's holding down the neutral. And you are just going anywhere you want on the screen really fast, pushing any button you want, and getting any hit you want into a knockdown. So there's nothing really to say about Elphelt. Her combos are stupidly easy, and if you ever have trouble with them, it's a skill issue, and you should really check that out. You should really check yourself. Next up, we have Faust. Faust also goes into the combo in your sleep category, because Faust has a very stable game plan, which is zone you with giant pokes and throw items when you don't want to approach him. So that inherently forces you into angles of the screen that are easy for him to combo off of. Also, his moves just combo really easily and tend to be universal. So his main combos are all from anti-airs, and if he hits you with either 5k or 6p as an anti-air hit, he can do jump k, double jump KSH, and that's pretty close to max damage. Like, that is the max damage you get. 5k wall bounces on counter hit, so that makes it easier. I don't know why it wall bounces. Well, the battle director's a Faust player, so that's why it works that way that it does. Thank you, Pachi, by the way, for making this character good in this game. I love the matchup. But overall, Faust has one combo route in the air, which is doing Gatlings into jump KSH. On the ground, he has a couple of different combo routes. It's like sweep into knockdown, which everybody does, or it's button into pogo, and pogo wall bounces in this game, and then he does pogo going my way, and that carries you halfway across the stage. And that's very, very, very consistent. 3 varies, very consistent. There are some asterisks to Faust's combo game, which is that if you do pogo and you're at like imagine that this tier list is the screen. If you were Faust here and you did pogo and your opponent wall bounced like this, they might be able to tech out like here before you're going my way reaches them. That's pretty uncommon. And again, thinking back to Chipp, what happens when you drop a combo? Nothing. You're Faust. You're chilling on the other side of the screen throwing items, and your opponent is teching out in the air. And the air is a dangerous place to be against Faust, so he's fine even when he messes up. There are some advanced combos you can do with Pogo Stance in the corner because they made it more of a combo tool in this game. And those are maybe a little difficult to get to grips with, but they're not like terribly unstable, and they're not anywhere near as hard as some of the other characters. So I don't think Faust is very difficult, and neither should you. The most awkward thing about him is that, sorry, I was going to say that he might have some trouble comboing off of pokes, but not really, because I'm pretty sure far S counter hit leads to pogo, and 2H normal hit leads to pogo, and both of those on counter hit, I believe, lead to skewer, or scalpel thrust. 2H definitely does. I play Faust in plus R, and some of the attack data is a little different, so I'm kind of basing his... I'm trying not to take that mental idea and put it here, because the combos are different. But I should say, that's one final thing about Faust. In plus R, he has this ability to do jump D as a combo ender, like jump K, Gatling, jump B, and that knocks down. In this game, he doesn't even have that. So the possibility of like trying to do a different combo route and messing it up and maybe in some remote world getting punished for it doesn't even exist. It's just not there. Like, you literally can't do it. There are some extremely obscure item combos, but they're not hard to do. Like, this character is really easy. There's not much more to say. Jam is next. I would say that you could make an argument to be putting Jam anywhere in these, like in the yellow band here. I don't think she's not up here, and I don't think that she's in this. The way that I decided to put her is that she basically has one combo that she wants to do, and if she has the resources to do it, then it generally works. Asterisk. If she doesn't have the resources to do it, she just does a significantly worse combo, and you just go back into the scramble. But that's okay, because Jam lives in the scramble, and she's just a character who launches herself around and does stupid things all the time. She's a gorilla. So it's not bad that your combo is unstable. I mean, it sucks, obviously, but considering that you have Jam's scramble buttons like jump S, jump H, you have her 6H on the ground, you have everything she does out of Bakushu, like, it's really, really easy to succeed in a scramble with Jam. And I've seen a lot of people on net play, like in tournaments and on net play, like established people and like randoms that I've never seen before, who just never do Oki, and they just live in the scramble and just do crazy things everywhere, and it works out. Now, the one central combo I'm talking about is her setup combo, which is like Gatling into 5H, 3 hits, which is the one where she goes downwards, and then 2H, 2 hits, which is the vacuum normal, where she goes out like this, and then sweep. and then you charge a card for one of her special moves. That's what you do off of the first hit most of the time. The slightly higher damage thing that you might want to do is that her parry can also be done as a combo tool, and it has a punch follow-up and a kick follow-up. The punch follow-up is useful if you get like a low air hit and you can't knock down, because like it knocks down. It's her only option to knock down. Sometimes you'll have like a kick follow-up, or the option to do a kick follow-up or to route into it. And that does require a lot of like really, really hard stuff. However, you don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. There are things you could do other than it, and those depend on resources. So, I don't know. Jam is a character who actually doesn't need to do a ton of combos, but if you want to do the combos on everybody, they get really hard. But if you want to split the difference and scramble and just kill people with random counter hits and then take like one combo or something, you can do that. She's a hard character to categorize. I should also point out that the combo that you see most characters do... Sorry, I should talk about this one central combo that I'm talking about, that I'm mentioning. So there's, on the ground, like I said, there's the Gatlings in a sweep, and then you charge a card. There's, if you have a slightly lower air hit, there's Gatlings into parry punch follow-up. And if you want to do something more advanced, there's Gatlings into parry kick follow-up. The ideal combo that I think all Jam players want in most situations is to have like one or two carded special moves, usually Gekurin, which is the overhead axe kick. And then you will get like a combo that is like air sequence into Gekurin, and Gekurin knocks down, so you can do it anywhere in the air, and your opponent is falling all the way to the ground. And then you run up and you do like 2H into punch, 2H into parry, into the kick follow-ups, and then you do like Bakushu into the puffballs. It's something like that. And if you watch like any high-level Jam, or if you go back and watch anything that Teresa does, I think he's the most prolific Jam who travels, you can see him do a lot of those things and be very stable with them. So like, and that's like a significant combo stabilizing thing. That's the ideal combo you'd want. It should also be pointed out that rather than do the ender that I described, like puffballs, you can also go into Bao, which is her like launcher super, where she goes Bao, Hai Shok Shin Xiao, or whatever she says. And she launches her opponent up, and then there's a large delay, and you push punch, and she jumps. And that is the ideal combo ender, just because it does a ton of damage. That's not... Sorry, and that represents another concept that I wanted to mention, which is how easily you can separate a combo into chunks. I think for Jam, because her special moves are designed to be either good and combos, or good and enable combos, or not good and not enable combos, it's really easy to say, okay, I got X buttons, I'm going to do Gekurin, I just have to keep my opponent at the correct height, and then I do a Gatling, and then the combo stabilizes. So you take this chunk of a combo, you end it in Gekurin, and what you did before kind of doesn't matter. This is also somewhat true of Ryujin, because Ryujin will generally carry your opponent to the corner. So it has some application as an alternative to Gekurin in stabilizing combos. And Kenrokaku, which is her DP, is also somewhat useful as an ender, but usually you just have that because, you know, you're Jam and you just want a DP. You want a giant multi-hit DP that goes to the top of the screen because you're Jam. Anyway, overall, I think there is an argument to be made that Jam could go up here, or maybe here, which is that like her kick follow-ups to the parry are like really, really wonky and really annoying. But because she has so much other stuff that's very practical, you can just not engage with any of that at all, and you'll have a fairly successful time. So that's what I'm basing it on. After Jam, we have Haehyun, and Haehyun is actually Kum. Haehyun's actually the reason I created this tier in the first place, because Haehyun has one combo that she wants to do, and a bunch of bullshit that she does when she can't do the good combo. And that combo is Shinken, kick loops, and then Oki, and then combo into a launcher, more Shinken kick loops. That's just what she wants to do in every possible situation. So, like, if you can do that, if you have the opportunity to do that, and I should say that I play Haehyun as a secondary character, so I'm familiar with all the like weird things about her and all the situations where she's trying to route into combos and how she spends meter. If you can do that, if you can do a kick loop and you have the moderate execution to do it and you're familiar with the input, then you can just do the combo and it's really easy. Or it's really stable, I should say. Because you also have stable Roman cancels into that. Anytime you hit with ground Hayabusa, which is the like sort of forward kick, where she like swings her leg forward, you can just RRC that, run forward, and do a launcher into Shinken kick loops. Anytime you get like an anti-air, you can do Shinken kick loops. In fact, you can even anti-air with Shinken, and it's probably a counter hit, and you get a lot of time to stabilize. I would say it's not hard, provided that you can do that one thing on command on both sides. Unlike a lot of characters, she really can't do much in the air, so in terms of stabilizing air combos, you don't really want to do that. Like maybe you do like jump P Gatling, or like you probably just want to go into the air to air throw people. It's also worth noting that there are some things you can do to turn a combo into multiple Shinkens where it normally wouldn't work. For instance, you can do sweep into blue Shinken, which will wall bounce, but not give you enough time to charge into red Shinken. But if you have this right spacing from the wall, if you're just at exactly the right moment, instead of the combo being 2D Shinken jump Gatling sequence Oki, you can do 2D blue Shinken, slightly higher blue Shinken jump Gatling sequence Oki. So again, all of the difficulty that you might think of like freestyling and improvising purely comes from how many Shinkens you can possibly fit into a combo. And because Shinken has so much hit stun, it mostly ignores hit stun scaling or hit stun decay and gravity scaling and damage scaling and all of that. It's just a crazy move. Even if your opponent is at the end of a combo like that, you can almost always have enough meter to do the giant celestial, what is it, not celestial tuning ball, enlightened palm strike, 1000 palms enlightened palm strike, whatever. And that will let you physically move your opponent around the screen into the exact spot. It's the definition of a combo stabilizer. So provided that you're familiar with all of that, it's really simple. The only way that I can find that Haehyun's combos might be difficult is if you're not used to controlling the tuning ball as it hovers back and forth. Either the S ball, which hits once, or the H ball, which hits 3 times. They're identical aside from the number of hits. However, there are very stable setups you can do where you'll do a sweep, you do like mash into sweep, and then H tuning ball, and you sort of just let it go, and it hits the back of your opponent's head and pushes them towards you, and then you just do your mix from there as they're sliding towards you. I wouldn't say that it's particularly difficult once you become familiar with the character. It's like sort of a quirk of how the character works. That's another thing to think about. A lot of characters in a lot of fighting games have quirks to their execution. Like for Haehyun, it's doing the Shinken input. For Jam, it's figuring out what your card lets you do. For Answer, it's releasing the stick and going to neutral so that you grab onto the scroll near you. Are these things particularly difficult? No, I don't think so. But they are quirks, and you do have to get used to that. So differentiating between quirks and difficulty is a really big, really important thing. Next up, we have Kai. Kai is, honestly, I think I could spend a whole hour talking about how Kai is a good character and how he gets everything at every distance, but he combos in your sleep. Kai is so easy. Kai's the definition of easy combos in this game. Easy combos, universal Oki, good anti-airs that lead into his good easy combos and universal Oki. Easy ways to extend combos, easy ways to confirm off of pokes. Forest goes into stun dipper or sweep. He's got a way to challenge stuff. He's got a DP. Like, he can combo off the DP if it counter hits or if he spends meter. Like, You compare that to Chipp Gamma Blade. Chipp also has a DP, but you never get anything off of it because it's 2 hits, so it tends to stabilize or normalize the first hit counter hit into a normal hit on the second. Kai's is just 1 big hit. So if you do manage to hit with it, which is not always easy to do, you can just RC it, and then you get a combo. I can't think of anything that's even remotely difficult about Kai or any of Kai's Oki or any of Kai's combos. The one thing I will say, the one thing that's like genuinely as difficult as it's going to get with him is that doing Vapor Thrust loops in the corner is particularly, is like weirdly character specific. Because if you want to do more than just the basic button into Vapor Thrust, into like 2H, into Vapor Thrust, into Oki, then you do have to start eyeballing stuff and getting used to it and adjusting for character weights. And whether you got the starter from something that was stable, like 2D into Sacred Edge, into Run Up Juggle, or if you got it off of an anti-air, or if you RC'd and did it, that's going to make it feel a little different. But overall, if there's any kind of difficulty, you can just opt out of it. So, and you go right back into Gatling into special move. It's not hard. I wish there were more to say, but Kai is a very stable and honestly very boring character in this game. So, that's all there is. Right behind him is the second king of Illyria, Leo, who is also a very stable, very boring character. Although, I have to say that Leo is probably more boring than Kai because he does the same combo in every situation, which is button into Rekkas, and then he runs the same Oki, which is back turn stance, sit on top of your body, and just kill you. Back turn S is a form of communication. Sorry, I was distracted. I don't know what to say about Leo. He wants to do exactly one thing. When he does do it, he does it. It works. One thing I should say about how stable Leo's combos are is that he is the only character in Exerd with a move that bypasses the OTG state while putting you into a combo, while allowing you to do a combo that doesn't involve a wall slump. So for a character like, so the way that dust moves work in this game, or the way that corner dusts work in this game, is that if you, just the way that the walls work in this game is that if you get hit, if you get splatted onto a wall low enough, instead of popping off or having the option to tech out, you will slump downwards, and that puts you into a unique state where you are considered standing, or you're considered crouching. You're like you're not airborne anymore, you're back on the ground. For a lot of characters, they may or may not have practical ways to route into this. Kai does generally. Well, Kai sort of does. If he wall splats you with Splits Yell, which is the dust move where he puts out a grinder, and then does Sacred Edge, the Sacred Edge will wall splat, and if that's low, then you'll go into the slump. Sin is probably the best character in the game at abusing that. Haehyun has some stuff like that, but Leo has the only move in the game where he can do that mid-screen. So in the air, he has this move called Siegsparade, or Siegesparade, which is the German pronunciation, which is the air ender move where he like grabs you and goes to the ground and then hits you up and puts himself in a back turn stance and does a combo, or does Oki, right? And so that hit where he's falling with you, you're normally airborne. When you go onto the ground, you're in OTG state. And then when he picks you up, that takes you from OTG state into normal standing hit stun. So he can go from air hit, which is a very easy hit to combo into, by the way. That's very stable. Works on everybody. And that hit like magnetizes you to Leo's body. You go down to the ground. He puts you in OTG state. And then he picks you up and you're standing again. And it so happens that if you wanted to do more damage off of this hit, then you can Roman cancel it and actually combo into dust. So you could do air hit, go to the ground, restand, Roman cancel, dust, up, air hit, go to the ground, restand. Or you can, if you're close to the corner, you can do a side dust instead, and you can go into a side dust combo from that. So Leo also has the Weapon X super, which is his like front turn super, and he's got his back turn super. Both of those are great for combos. They're very fast. They stabilize combos really well. Honestly, it's not difficult to play this character. The only thing that's like even slightly difficult is that sometimes your opponent, you get like a juggle with 6H, and your opponent is like short above the ground, like a very small distance above the ground, and so it might be difficult to do 5k with dash momentum to get the hit that you need. But that's a really minor thing, and it's no different from anything else. So Leo is just a character with really easy combos. Mei. Mei is also basically the same as these other guys. You may notice a pattern that this tier list is kind of bottom heavy, but we'll see that later. Uh, Mei is a character who wants to do basically one thing, which is jump around and push jump S. Occasionally she pushes like far S or like 2k or 3k on the ground. 3k is that slide. 3k, down forward kick. The low forward, as Street Fighter players would call it. And all of 3k is its own thing. I'll get to that in a moment. But the thing about her jump S is that on normal hit as a jump in, it's really easy to combo. And on air to air hit, as like a counter hit, it launches you slightly, so she can just jump up and do a combo there. And the combo that she does is jump S, H, D. Her D is like this up forward moving like headbutt, and that stabilizes the combo, and it's also jump cancelable. And then she does another jump H, another jump D, and then she goes into Ensenga. There are a few factors that work there in order to make that combo so stable. First of all, she jumps up really fast, like she moves upward very fast, which means that when she's pushing you up with all of her normals, she's going up with you. When she does jump D, she moves forward and up, so that's great. It's crazy good to have a normal that, like a jump normal with multiple uses that you can use multiple times, I mean, which stabilizes combos and moves you up and forward. There's like 2 of those in the game, and Mei has one of them. And then the ender is Ensenga. And Ensenga actually has a really funny property. Not a property, it has a really funny quirk where the hitbox is like 6 times the size of Mei's body. It's exactly as large as the sprite looks. And therefore, it basically never whiffs, ever. Now, in earlier versions of Exert, I believe in Sign and like the early unpatched versions of Revelator, Mei Ensenga did not always knock down. And they changed it so that Ensenga being a 2-hit move, she goes up, she tries to do Johnny's technique, Ensenga, which he had in the older games. Then she goes whoa, 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 and falls down. They wanted all of that to connect properly all the time. So they changed it so that the first hit of Ensenga has like basically infinite hit stun, and the second hit also has basically infinite hit stun. It also has this kind of strange property where because she's accelerating downwards, and because of the angle that she goes at, the earlier she hits with Ensenga, the second hit, the more plus she is. I don't know if there's like an exact reason for this, but it seems like whenever Mei connects with the second hit of Ensenga, she like accelerates towards the ground. So sometimes the frame advantage is different afterwards, but I'm trying to say that like Ensenga basically never drops and it works on everybody, and it carries you all the way to the corner wherever she does it, and it works off of the same combo on everyone. And the only thing you would ever need to do in order to think about stabilizing this combo is not do like one jump S. Again, you could literally teach like a dog to play this character. She's not complicated. The thing I wanted to circle back to is 3k, because 3k is a reason why Mei has stable combos on the ground as well. A lot of characters in Guilty Gear, and Soul is actually a very good example of this, have this weird property where their knockdown special moves are less than the range of their pokes. Usually it's like sweep or something, not necessarily a special move. But if you're thinking of Soul, right? If he hits you with any like long range poke, like far slash or 5H, he's probably outside the range of 2D. And 2D is usually how he does his knockdowns. Mei looks like she has that problem because her 2D is like basically like this distance. And then her far slash goes out to like here, and her 5H is like here, so it doesn't hit anywhere. And her 2S goes basically the same distance as 2D, but it's a little bit longer. So you might think that there would be issues where she like hits an extended limb with her far slash or 2A, RS or 2S, and the opponent like reels backwards and she can't combo into sweep. This is not true, because basically anytime she can hit with 2S, she can get a knockdown because she gatlings into 3K, and 3K reaches forward like half the screen and she slides. So that's a consistent knockdown against everybody. Closer, she just does 2D, whatever. And honestly, the only times that Mei doesn't get a combo or a combo into a knockdown from any of her ground pokes is when she specifically hits you with the tip of far S and you reel back. Because if you're near the tip of far S, she can hit you with far S, 2S, 3K, you're knocked down. Every hit leads to a knockdown with this character, and they are no more complicated than doing gatlings. Maybe a special move. Now, the one thing that Mei players have tried to psyop us collectively into believing is hard about this character is that her ideal corner combo involves using H horizontal dolphin to wall splat her opponents. And then because of how H horizontal dolphin wall splats, and maybe because of hit stun decay, you may not always, or she might not always, have the ability to do a full instant air dash combo after doing the horizontal dolphin. This is a very minor problem, which can be fixed just through like doing a different combo into a knockdown, like S horizontal dolphin and just taking the knockdown, or just running forward a little bit and spending meter on an RC or something. You can almost always stabilize that combo. Mei is another character that I've touched throughout this game's history. I've played her like 2 or 3 times for like a month and a half each time, and like there's something fun about her, but I don't know. Like the fact that I just do everything and it's the same all the time just like really bothers me. And I know they play Raven and he's like the poster boy for doing the same thing every time, but Mei like kind of fools people into thinking that she does different things, but it's always the same thing and it's always really easy. So I don't know. I should point out that there's all this dolphin stuff that she can do where she summons hoop dolphins and she can hop on the dolphin and she can do a horizontal or vertical dolphin, hop off that, hop onto the hoop dolphin, and like do an air dash off of the hoop dolphin. And if you don't know how it works, you assume it's really hard. I did this. I had the same problem because I tried to play Mei the very first time many years ago when I first picked up this game, or in my first year of picking up this game. And I tried to do her combo trials, which involve setting up a hoop dolphin and then hopping on the hoop dolphin and doing a combo, doing like the air dash thing. And I tried it for hours and I could not get it. And I looked up Dust Loop and there wasn't a lot of good documentation. And I asked people and I didn't get very good answers. So I just assumed it was really hard, and that whenever I saw a Mei player do that, it was really, really hard, right? Right? But if you remembering what I said about Chipp, there are these like legacy things that they want to be hard, or which were hard, but they just made really easy for no reason. Mei didn't have the like hop on, hop off dolphin riding mechanic in the older games, but in this game, when you hop onto a dolphin and you like a hoop dolphin, and you make contact with an opponent, you don't have to manually time the air dash off of it. You can just hop on the dolphin, make contact with an opponent, and before that, you can actually double tap forward, and the game will store that air dash input, and the second Mei, or the instant Mei becomes actionable after popping off the dolphin, she will just do the air dash. And once I realized that, somehow I had never tried it before, it occurred to me that all of this stuff that I thought was like really hard was actually not that hard. It just felt strange. And there are a lot of characters with a lot of combos and techniques in this game where you'll try to do it at the start and you'll just bounce off of it. Like Answer is like this, where like that thing that you're trying to do is so bizarre and so opaque and so inscrutable that you just assume it's really hard. And you just assume that people who do it are crazy good. But in reality, they just figured out a consistent way to do it, or the game just makes it really easy, but it doesn't tell you. And that's kind of one of the great failings of this game. Like, I remember when they were first showing off Baiken, actually, the guy who was doing the stream said, hey, you know, in the older games, she had this overhead move called Yozansen. It was really hard to do if you wanted to Tiger Knee it, and it was an overhead. So I'm going to try to do TK Yozansen. And for every one that I miss, I'll have to like read a message from chat or something. And he tried to do it like 3 or 4 times, and he didn't, right? So it was really, oh man, it's so hard, right? This is a legacy character. She's so hard. No, it's the same trick as Axel Bomber. You just spin the stick in a circle and push S, and if you timed it properly, it has no difficulty. Bit of a tangent, but if you go to Strive, Yozansen is just a 2-3-6 motion, quarter circle, whereas in this game it's a 6-2-3 motion. In the older games it is as well. And people thought that that was strange, right? Because they were removing the execution component from doing TK Yozansen. But of course, people who play Baiken don't play Guilty Gear. So those people don't know that they already removed the execution component in this game because the input interpreter looks backward 6 years to see what your inputs were. So, all of that is to say that Mei is a very easy character to combo with. Next up we have Millia, who is a bit of a difficult character, again, mostly because of the way people perceive her, not because of the way she actually operates in practice. I know that when I was getting people into Guilty Gear in 2018 to 2020, I would see them try to play Millia, and they would think, man, I can't do instant air dashes. I cannot do an instant air dash to save my life. And Millia requires them in her B&B combos, and she requires constant fast inputs, and she requires all of this stuff that's like really hard. And all of her Oki is character specific because it always has to be done it always has to be done to the frame so that you get a real mix-up, and if you mess up at all, it's so hard. I don't particularly think Millia is a very hard character to combo with, because, as I will say later once I get to Johnny, bit of a spoiler, and as I said about Mei, the character execution is not necessarily so difficult as it is opaque. For instance, and I would like to cover this in a separate video, there are things in Guilty Gear, in Exerd specifically, which are in the buffer, like which the game will carry forward as actions, and there are things that are not, so you need to time them manually. Instant air dashes and movement in general is not a distinct action, so you do need to input it manually. So if you want to do a Millia combo, which is like /2H, jump D, double jump SD into hairpin, land, and then do Oki with disc. That kind of combo requires an instant air dash. And if you try to do jump D and then just mash instant air dash, you can do it correctly within the window of what would count as an instant air dash if you were standing still. But because you did not manually time it to align with the end of the hit stop on jump D, which is a lot because Millia jump D is a high attack level, then the game will exit hit stop, see what you're trying to do, and think, oh, you wanted a jump cancel, and that was it. In one particularly egregious example, I saw somebody who was trying out Millia in Exerd and trying to do her combo trials, and he was trying to do the one about Silent Force, the hairpin throw, and that combo trial is something like jump, and then you do the S version of Silent Force, which keeps her air momentum, and she just throws the pin. And then you hit with that, and you land, and you do /5HD sweep into disc. And I watched the Twitch VOD of this guy. Sadly, I was not there in real time, but I genuinely watched and skipped through 40 minutes of him doing 214 7S, and if you do that input, Millia double jumps backward, and then does the thing way back, like jumping backwards, right? So he tried this, and you can see the inputs on screen, but he did not know that he was doing it wrong because he hadn't read the description. In fairness to the game, it does tell you that the different versions of Millia hairpin throw behave differently. And if you were a curious kind of person, you could probably try and figure it out. But in that moment, he was incorrectly curious, as a friend of mine puts it. So I think a lot of people try to play Millia and have some kind of experience like that, where they try to do some specific movement technique, and they can't do it, so they assume that everybody who does Millia stuff, Millia players, is doing stuff like that all the time. But it's not really that difficult. As I said, I put Millia in the, well, I didn't say it, but I put Millia in the one central combo route because she has an extremely optimized game plan where she just wants to knock you down, and then she wants to do either dashing disc Oki, where she's right on top of you and she gets to do an unreactable high-low, or she wants to do a launcher into an air combo into hairpin, and then do disc Oki, and then get an unreactable high-low. Or if she hits you off of that, and the combo usually puts you in the corner. So usually if she hits you in the corner, she'll do that air launcher combo, or some like variant of it with slightly different Gatlings for like a different spacing or something. And then she'll land and set up Secret Garden, which is like the like that's just I win the round, have fun guessing 6 times correctly in a row against Emilia's mix. All of the hits lead to full combos. It stays even if she gets hit. You'll notice I'm not really describing Milia's combos. I'm describing her Oki. I will say, as much as I don't think Milia's Oki is difficult, it does like vary a lot from one knockdown to the next versus character to character. So if you want to do like the good Oki that's like frame perfect and has all these option selects baked into it, cough cough, Lord Knight, cough cough, then yeah, like that's fairly difficult. You would have to do that a lot. You'd have to eyeball things. You'd have to make sure that you were inputting things correctly. And if you messed it up one of the like 6 or 7 times you're doing Oki in a round, then that would probably give your opponent a chance to do something. If you're the vast majority of people who play Millia, even like really good players, you can probably just get away with like putting disc on somebody and doing pressure based on whether the disc hits meaty or whether you need to hit somebody with a normal to prevent them from jumping upwards into the disc and chicken blocking, which is to say retreating into the air so that they are immune to high lows. So all of this is a lot of complaining about Millia, but really her other combos are just like they basically don't exist. This character just dispenses sweep into projectile Oki, or knockdown from hairpin into projectile Oki, or if she has the really good projectile Oki to combo off of it, she gets to convert into Secret Garden. All of her difficulty comes from setting up like the best Oki against people who are, representing shit like Azami or wake up parry, or wake up parry, or wake up parry, or wake up DP, or wake up counter hit launcher that kills you and wins the round if it hits, stuff like that. So like that, I won't say that it's very difficult in the grand scheme of things, because almost every character has something like that to worry about from like a lot of their matchup spread. But I will say that I think there is some difficulty in playing Millia in that she's very unforgiving, but she's also the best character in the game by far at turning everything into a single player game. And if you remember what I said earlier, I was talking about characters like Raven and characters like Baiken who have the ability to stabilize the game. Raven in particular, mostly Raven and like Elphelt or Kai. And because they stabilize it, they get really consistent combos, which are mostly universal. And I think Milia's are also quite universal from what I've seen. Perhaps the greatest reason why people think Millia has hard combos is that Millia players are just whiny motherfuckers, and they are just bitches who do not want to do anything that is ever hard, that is ever difficult. And that's the reason why Millia got buffed in not Rev 2.1, but in Rev 2.0, I think. I think in 2.0 she got a change where the Bad Moon knockdown increases, or like it knocks down if she does it from a certain height. And then in Rev 2.1 she got Digitalis comboing from 5H on crouching hit, and the roll picking up the hairpin. Because that was another thing about Millia that had some difficulty, not really, but some difficulty managing the pin and your Oki. And it can sort of feel like this checklist where it's like, I get the hit, I do the combo, I do hairpin toss, I get the projectile set up. With my 17 frames, I have to double tap backwards to input a backdash, which only has 11 frames total. That's another thing, I'll get to that. And then I tap down to pick up the disc, or the hairpin, and then the disc is hitting. So now I have 15 frames to input TK Bedman, and then I have to do microdash and combo. And if you get into all that, then yeah, I can see that she's like she does demand some degree of precision in your inputs, and doing all of that constantly is like some degree of screwing up. It does have some risk of screwing up. But if you just want to jump at people and push jump H, if you just want to throw hairpin, and you just want to move around the screen with your backdash, whose total duration is like less than the pokes that people are actually going to hit you with out of it, that's not hard. It just requires you to pop some Adderall and pretend that you're a Smash player. Well, I mean, you're lusting after a woman, so obviously you're not a Smash player, but you know. Anyway, that's how I would think about Millia. Oki can be difficult if you want to do the super high APM, super turbo octane single player stuff, but I don't think that she is a very difficult character conceptually. Potemkin is next. Potemkin is the second character that I'm going to put up in unstable mandatory routes. And this might seem strange, because if you are playing against the net play Potemkins, which are very common, at this stage in the game's life anyway, you may just get the impression that Potemkin is a character who does like close slash 2S, 2D, and a hammerfall up on you and then do grappler Oki, right? And if he hits you, if he grabs you with the command grab, he gets a safe jump, and he can use that safe jump to represent options that beat blitz or that call out backdashes or something like that. And it's like decent, right? It's not bad by any stretch. So why does he have all these problems? Well, as I said many eons ago at the start of this video, I was talking about how characters almost always have something that's easy and universal and genuinely like easy and universal and easy to access. In Strive, they sort of simplified this and gave everybody full combos off of close slash. But in this game, in the older games, it's like you have a lot of Gatling options off of close slash. So if you're Potemkin and you hit somebody with close slash, you can probably just do like close slash far S sweep or close slash 2S sweep. And then you get the knockdown and then you get grappler set play, right? The thing is, if you're Potemkin, first of all, you can't move. And second of all, to do anything other than that basic grappler set play, which is actually significantly weaker in a game with this much throw protection out of block stun. Guilty Gear has 6, 7, or 8 frames of throw protection, depending on whether you are exiting block stun, hit stun, or a knockdown. And Potemkin Buster has 3 frame startup. So this means that basically Potemkin has a very long range command grab that's really fast at 3 frame startup, but it doesn't like tick throw in the way that you're used to if you're playing Street Fighter, or I guess I should say like modern Street Fighter or generally modern fighting games where there's like some kind of mechanic like guard crush that sets up the Potemkin Buster. Anyway, combos. The thing about Potemkin is that one of his things that is incredibly good is that if he ever gets you into the corner and he ever hits you with like a big counter hit move like 6H or to a lesser extent 5H, or if he ever just hits you with dust, you simply lose the round because he gets to combo you into stun, and then he resets you because combos reset stun in this game. And sorry, they reset combos. Sorry, stuns reset combos in this game. And then after he's got his new fresh scaled damage combo, and after he's out of the Roman cancel tension penalty, which lasts about 6 seconds, he just continues to combo you, and you just take infinite damage until you die. Not literally infinite damage. You take a lot of damage. There is, in fact, a video on the Potemkin Dust Loop section, or the Potemkin section of the Dust Loop wiki, which will show you how to touch of death somebody if you hit them in the corner and you have 50 meter. And he can do that universally. So how do you do that? Well, mostly you have this trick where he does 6K, which is the shoulder tackle, and as you input it, you start holding back, and then as he connects with 6K, you input Hammerfall, which is a charge move that requires you to hold back. So the input looks like 6K, 4, 6K connects, 6H, and then as soon as you start Hammerfall, you push P, which goes into Hammerfall Break. And Hammerfall Break in the older games is very fast. So you can basically replace the recovery of 6k with 1 frame of Hammerfall and then Hammerfall break. So that allows you to loop 6k into itself and 6k wall splats on normal hit. So you'll do something like 6k Hammerfall break, wall splat, 6k Hammerfall break, wall splat, and you do that like 4 times, and then you do a couple of normals that put your opponent lower on the screen, and then you will either go for the knockdown if you don't have meter, or if you do have meter, you can spend it to extend combos in a variety of different ways. Sometimes you just go directly into super if you want to cash out for damage. Sometimes you go into, you get that wall slump thing I talked about earlier. And sometimes you go into Heavenly Potemkin Buster. These routes are not, okay, I'm not going to say that they're like crazy difficult. I think if you learn how to do like 2 or 3 6k loops into something simple like I think it's 2S into Trishula, into jump sequence that ends in ICPM, which is the big knockdown move from the air, then you can probably keep it simple and get like straightforward Oki on most characters in most situations. However, like Chipp, Potemkin sort of has the opposite thing to Chipp, in that Chipp has control of the match, provided that he doesn't make a mistake, whereas Potemkin represents this giant powder keg of damage, even if he does make a mistake. So, if you are making if you are getting in as Potemkin, even though he represents a big powder keg full of damage, he has no control over the match. Potemkin is on the back foot in like literally every matchup. Every other character is faster than him. Every other character has better pokes and better movement and stuff. Maybe not better pokes. His buttons are all right. But overall, he really struggles to control anything in any matchup, basically. Almost all of the matchups in the game are losing matchups for him. However, if you get that hit, you kill your opponent, or you combo into stun and then you get Potemkin Buster and it's like 70% or something. Like, you need to convert off of the single hit that you get with Potemkin, and the way that you do that, first of all, it requires your opponent to be near the corner. If your opponent's not near the corner, then you just can't do it, so that sucks. Doesn't have easy combo chunk theory like Kai or Haehyun. And if your opponent is in the corner, then your reward for that is that you get to do a really hard combo that requires genuinely like hard execution, because you're fighting both like character-specific weights and hurt boxes and stuff, as well as fighting hit stun scaling and gravity scaling, which are minor factors in Guilty Gear's combo structure in this game, but which do still affect combos. And if you mess up that combo, your opponent gets to tech off of the wall and do tech buttons. And tech buttons in this game have like 17 frames of invincibility on them, so they're crazy powerful. You really don't want somebody to do that to you while you're whiffing 6k into the wall, because you can only cancel it on hit, obviously. Frankly, the Potemkin is like really easy if you just want to be a fundamentals monster and play the grappler character with crazy defense. But if you want to do combos, and you actually want those combos to be more than just Gatlings into sweep, Hammerfall break, do grappler Oki, then you need to put in the work, and you need to physically grind the execution of doing Hammerfall breaks, and you need to like strategically convert into them in matches. I should also point out that the reason why Potemkin might feel like he's a good character, even if you play a character who beats him handily, like Axel or Faust, is that he has a lot of incredibly difficult defensive techniques, or incredibly powerful defensive techniques, and in order to use those, such as his backdash, which is crazy, or his Potemkin Buster, which is 3 frames startup, or his flick, which is a projectile reflector and a destroyer, and also a poke if it doesn't reflect anything. Also 6p and also Trishula. Well, maybe not 6p, but definitely Trishula. Also Mega Fist. He has all these moves that are really capable of ignoring what the opponent is doing for like moderate reward, like low to moderate reward. Except for Potemkin Buster, because that's a 3-frame punish on anything. So doing that also requires a lot of difficult labbing, and it requires labbing from the defender's perspective. It's not simply that you understand how the mix-up works. It's one thing to defend against like a standard safe jump thing, but it's another thing to say, okay, in this exact situation, my attacker is hitting me with a projectile and, has the option to do heavy, uh, high-low, or like delayed air dash for a left-right or something. What can I do about that? And you literally just have to learn how to play your opponent's character. And then you have to go into training mode and record that Oki setting, and then you have to lab against that Oki setting. This is really, really obnoxious, and prior to the game being, improved with rollback, and people, and generally being like, generally receiving mods from the community. Let me start over. Prior to the game receiving rollback, and prior to the reinvigoration that came with it, which resulted in third-party mods that make it significantly easier to test reversals and other stuff, it was a huge pain in the ass to lab stuff in this game. Exerd's training mode looks good if all you've ever played is a Guilty Gear game before, but if you've played any other fighting game, aside from like Street Fighter 4, it sucks, okay? There's no easy way to say this. If you've played Melty Blood on the PlayStation 2, that game has a better training mode than Exerd. Straight up. So, Potemkin players are people who do hard combos on all these different characters, and they have to identify whether they can get 3 or 4 loops, whether they can get the wall slump knockdown, whether they have to go into Heavenly Potemkin Buster, all these other things. And they also have to lab defense against every friggin' matchup, and remember it, by the way, and have the muscle memory and everything. And they have to do that in a game with shitty training mode functions, okay? The reason why people think Potemkin is good and why he never got buffed is because the only people who do this are crazy. They're just insane. And they're like FAB in Japanese arcades. Like, literally, he was so good that he made this character never get buffed. And all the people who played Elphelt in Japanese arcades were so bad that they allowed Elphelt not to get nerfed into oblivion for like 7 years. So, anyway, to summarize Potemkin, has to do hard combos, basically, if you want to do anything more than just spending Gatlings and doing supers. Honestly, he sucks at converting stuff into supers, too. So, very rigid combo structure, no control of the match, making it hard to create situations where you convert, has to do hard combos, only gets to do those hard combos in the corner. Those combos require both knowledge and execution, and if you want to do all of this and put all this together, and you want to have like some semblance of control over the match, you have to lab defense. Which, I mean, hey, I hate doing. I've played this game for years, and I hate labbing defense just because the training mode sucks. So, that's Potemkin. Hard character to play, hard character to combo, in my opinion. Although, funnily, he is an easy character to combo because he's big and heavy, which I guess, whatever, he deserves it. He's a low tier. Moving on. Now we have Sin. Sin Kiske. It's not Kiske, it's Kiske. It's German. Don't ask me why a French guy has 2 German names. Actually, do ask me. It's because he's named after the guys from Halloween, which is a German band. I don't know why they made him French. Anyway, his illegitimate half-breed son, whom he named Mistake, is mostly universal with 1 to 2 exceptions. Basically, there's the alternative, like, there's a compelling argument to put him in the 1 central combo route, because Sin's ideal combo route is like 2H, 5H, 6H, Hawk, which is the Hawk Baker, which is the launcher, Bull Bash, Leap, and then Jump 6H, which is the vacuum thing, Close / 5H, Ender, right? And he can convert into that off like that Hawk Baker, Bull Bash, Leap, Loop very easily. He can do that off of his half-screen slide that has like a quarter of a second of startup, not that much. He can do that off of randomly counter-hitting people with Beat Driver. He can do that by just leaping at people and testing their anti-airs. He can do that by scooping people up with his un-anti-airable giant gigantic like ice cream scoop move, Vulture Seas. Vulture Seas. Don't ask me how I named it. I don't know. He has a lot of ways to convert into this, and it's very stable. The reason I'm not putting him into the 1 central combo category is because, in addition to that, he also has very plain combos. So he has things like converting off of P and K normals into things that are not just sweep. So he can do like, so on crouching opponents, he can do like 3K, 5K, no, he can do 2K, 5K, 3k 6h, and then go into a combo from that. That only works on crouching, but 2k forces crouching. He can do 3k 6h as a frame trap because that only combos on crouching, which means it's a 2-frame gap. He can also just convert off of 6p, which goes into close slash 5h, 6h into the hawk, bull, leap loop. And he can also just loop that thing, that engine, that like combo concept, if the opponent at the correct height, if he gets like a nice low hit. He also just has very standard, very stable combos into air gatlings, into beak driver. And if you get your opponent near the corner, then you can do beak driver into itself, into air dash beak driver. The Sin player base calls these beak winder loops because they don't know how sidewinder works. And people, I mean, I call them beak driver air dash loops because that's what they are. So those are very stable, and those are basically almost all universal. Sin does have some really obscure stuff, like comboing into that wall splat state I mentioned earlier, and that requires like a fair amount of like precision, but it's not like hard. The most difficult thing about Sin is eyeballing your food gauge and figuring out how many like individual sections of it you have left, because it appears as a single contiguous bar, even though it's actually 16 different pips. No, I'm not calling them kilocalories, Sin players. They're called pips. That's what resources are called. Fuck you. Nobody calls them kilocalories. Sorry, I just blacked out for a second there. What was I talking about? Sin players. Sin combos. Point is, if you can get into Sin's combos with like 2H, 5H, whatever, you can stabilize it into something that's really, really easy and basically completely universal, with like 1 or 2 exceptions, as I said, which is like Soul and Dizzy, weirdly enough, like members of his family. And if you don't do that, you have a very easy alternative, and you can just end the combo sooner and choose to refill food. Like, even if you don't want to engage with Sin's combo game, you can just choose to refill food and keep your position and keep yourself safe from both being punished and keep your combo burst safe. Sin also has very easy combo chunking because anytime he hits you with a grounded normal hit of beak driver, he can spend 50 meter RRC and then just like run up and do 2H and that thing, that combos that I talked about. He can also use Voltic Dane, which is the projectile, for very easy Okizeme and to extend combos. And he can also use Ride the Lightning, or RTL, in order to combo off of Elk or combo off of Beak Driver in the corner, or just reposition you anywhere he wants you and put you in either corner from anywhere on the screen. Very versatile character, and in terms of the overall tier list, it speaks volumes about this game that a character with a safe DP that starts combos and who can do anything off of every hit is like not even in the consideration for like the top 6 or 7 characters. Anyway, yeah, Sin's really fun. He's really cool to play, and he's very easy. And that's one of the main reasons why he's so easy to play and so fun to play with. I didn't mean it like that, perverts. Anyway, moving on. Jacko. So Jacko is a character whom I was not entirely sure about when I started out making this. I don't play against her a ton. I don't play as her. She's certainly not like a hard combo character. So overall, I decided to put her, to go off what I see Jacko players do the majority of the time. And that is, I think, putting her into the combo in your sleep category. This is not an insult to Jacko players. I just think that's sort of how things work out for her. The reason I put her here as opposed to like mostly universal is because Jacko has the houses, and the houses summon servants, and those servants automatically move forward and attack in the 3 lanes, right? And that is enough to basically fill up the screen with garbage and win the match on its own if you don't know how to deal with it. And even if you do know how to deal with it, the servants are background objects, and so are the ghosts. So unlike, say, Dizzy's fish, or unlike Zato's Eddy, if you hit one of those, you don't get to combo. You just have to commit to the whiff recovery of the move. And even though this is Guilty Gear, and if you're a legacy character, none of your moves have whiff recovery, it's still pretty bad to whiff like 2S because you want to kill one of the houses and then have Jacko like air dash at you. and you either get punished or you have to block an air dash. And she just got that because her gimmick forces, or her mechanic forces you to act. So that's a really powerful late game win condition to build towards. But what do you do the rest of the time? Well, most of the time you just annoy people with crazy good pokes, like 5k, 4s, 3h. Everybody's really fucking sick of that button. And if you don't do that, or if you do get a knockdown with 3h, which is her sweep. If you're coming from Strive, her sweep is 2D, the little, like they had the helicopter thing. That's 3h in this game, and her D button is used for 1-button special moves. So she has a DP and a dive kick and a command grab and this air chomp move that puts you anywhere on the screen. And they automatically get powered up and spend small amounts of tension in order to do that power up. She's like a strategy level character. She's a reference to Guilty Gear Overture. So is Sin. Raven is not quite that much of a reference, but a lot of his mechanics are faithful to that. Anyway, Jacko is a character who wants to harass you, and if at any point you get hit, she actually doesn't do a combo. Unlike a lot of characters in this game, she does not do Okizeme in the same way, and she does not do combos that prioritize the same things. So if she knocks you down randomly with like 3H or like 4S 3H, she will actually just not like do a safe jump or not jump at you. And she will instead usually run up and just OTG you with like 2P, 5P, 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 or 2K, 5PPP mash, and just put you on the other side of the screen to spend like 1.5 seconds so that the houses can level up over time and start sending out more powerful ghosts. So Jacko's gameplay pushes her towards doing long, suboptimal combos that actually build your opponent's burst gauge back in order to play towards her win condition. And that's like really cool, but as far as combo difficulty goes, it's not that hard. You do a button into a sweep, and then you put down a house. If you already have the houses out, then you just OTG your opponent and knock him away so that you can hide behind your servants as they advance. It should also be noted, again, I'm talking a lot about strategy here, but I really want to hammer home how Jacko's combos are influenced by her strategy, because I think she's probably a bigger recipient of this quirk than any other character in the game. She really, truly just wants to fill the screen with servants and have them do all the dirty work so that she can just pick up a servant house, throw it, and then combo off of that. Or so she can just run in behind, do like a command grab, do an overhead, something like that. Lock you in block stun, do her one of her 2 overheads, do some bullshit with a dive kick. Everybody loves dive kicks. So, okay, so if she does actually hit you, what does she do? Well, if she hits you off of an anti-air, and her anti-airs are quite good, so she probably will, then her combo looks like jump S, jump SH, chomp, which is 4D. And the chomp is what makes her combos so easy and so stable. Because at any point, you can just do that, and her little ball and chain that she has, it chomps you, and then if she has the tension, which she almost certainly will just by virtue of doing the combo, she can actually choose which of 8 directions to spit you out. So she has perfect positioning. She can either spit you out towards the ground, or she has perfect combo extension, because if she has the top lane of servants, the Magisters, she'll spit you out upwards, and you'll fall into them, and they'll see you, and they'll put out a little projectile attack at you. You get hit by that, and then depending on distance, Jacko can convert off of that. Now, the asterisk to all the easy stuff that I just said, because that's really her combo, she can do also like combo off the corner, or combo off of command grab in the corner, which is dive kick loops and stuff. I don't think that's really too difficult. Because, I don't know, I never see people drop it, and I think I've done it myself. It doesn't feel difficult. Anyway, the asterisk to all of Jacko's very simple, very stable combos is that servants are completely uncontrollable, unlike in Strive, where she controls them very precisely, and those servants will mess up your combos, and they will mess up your Okizeme. So even if you play the game correctly, and you get to the late game with Jacko, and you've leveled up your army into 3-3-3, and you have this screen full of dudes who are running at your opponent and just breaking their ankles open with a crowbar, you can't ever guarantee that your hit is going to work out precisely the way that you want it to. So in terms of backfiring and that making combos difficult, which is something I said for Chipp, there is definitely that argument to be made. However, it's not mandatory, and she has other things she can do, and from what I've seen and played against, and occasionally played, like maybe once or twice, you really just have like a very solid, very stable poking character who passively builds towards something powerful in the background. The majority of the time, you don't have to do the crazy 70 hit juggles into Magister, into Chomp, into Magister, into Chomp, into whatever, into instant kill. And even though there is this channel of this guy who has found and continues to find hundreds of different ways to combo into instant kill with Jacko and combo into instant kill against Jacko, overall, she's not a hard character, and her combos are not unstable, and the Chomp means that even if something looks weird, you can just go into Chomp and you get the best ender that you want. So that's huge for combo stability. I don't think there's any compelling reason to put her in this. Like maybe she has some difficulty with lightweights, but no, I don't think so. So I'd put her in here. No offense to Jacko players, I just think that's how it works out. Slayer. Slayer is a character who is very different from his incarnation in Strive. And you might think that he's the first character to get like choice of stable or unstable roots. Because in this game, and Slayer is also a very different character in Exerd. Before I talk about how he falls in this game, I want to talk about the differences from Strive Slayer to Exerd Slayer to Plus R and by extension XX Slayer. So Strive Slayer is like a Smash Bros character. He's got like the fucking Mario fair on his 2S. I don't know why they did that. I don't know what the fuck he's doing. That he's not my Slayer, which is probably for the better because Strive players are just Smash players. So, you know, put the Smash character in the game. But in terms of how he plays, he basically just like flings himself at you and then you die. And that, like, you know, spiritually, that's very Guilty Gear. That's very Guilty Gear. In Exerd, well, in XX, Slayer is a character with really limited, really wonky mobility, and he's very bad at closing specific distances unless he has some way to teleport or to poke into that distance. So he has something like Mappa Hunch, which is the dash punch, which is minus, even on hit. And that punch will travel a long distance, but he's in counter hit state and he's lunging forward while he does it, so he can very easily get hit. And he has his teleport dash in the older games, and that teleport dash is one distance, so it's hard for him to move any distance in between. It's hard for him to move longer distances. What you have to do if you play Slayer is use his very good normals to pick spots to challenge your opponent. There's also this technique he has, and this doesn't come up a lot in Plus R specifically because Plus R has degenerate force breaks, and Slayer has some of the most degenerate force breaks, so he can just mash those instead of having to do this technique. But this technique is called backdash canceling, where he'll input a backdash, and because his backdash and his forward dash are both considered to be jump cancelable, he can take backdash invincibility into his jump startup, and then special cancel his jump startup into a special move, while retaining that backdash invincibility. It's a similar process or a principle to roll canceling in CVS2. So, with all that said, well, where am I putting Exerd Slayer? I'm putting him up here with Answer. I think, generally, if you want to play Slayer and you want to do things that are more than just close/far S sweep, or even doing the link, close S far S, link into close S far S sweep, I think you have to be aware of your roots that vary by weight class. So Slayer's ground gatlings and his special cancels off of ground gatlings are actually very consistent. They're like strangely consistent. Although I think there's one quirk about like comboing Leo or something. But if you just want to do like poke into Mappa Hunch, it will probably combo, because both P Mappa and K Mappa just leap him forward so much, or lunge him forward so much. And if you even want to just block string people from long distances, like you can do the Slayer Infinite, which is like 6H, P Dandy Step, swing with Under Pressure, swing with It's Late, both of which are plus on block and advancing. And then you can do like 5k, which is plus on block, Gatling into 6h, and repeat the cycle. And that just cranks people's risk bars, and it's like zero risk, zero commitment. That's really simple to do. But like basically every hit in there will set up combos pretty easily. So that's like the really stable stuff with Slayer, is basic combos that deal like 10 to 20, well, like 20 to 30%, and some gigantic counter hits like counter hit Under Pressure, counter hit It's Late, or counter hit Pile Bunker, or counter hit 6p, which deal large amounts of damage off of single hits. However, those are, I would say, unreliable ways to play Slayer, because what makes Exert Slayer different from Plus R Slayer specifically, because that's the other version that people play, because that game has rollback, is that he doesn't have degenerate 25-meter force break options to get past neutral, to the neutral skip, as it were, and he doesn't have ways to wake up for only 25 meter while being invincible. So in Plus R, he has Force Break Dandy Step, which is just an invincible forward-moving version of Dandy Step. It's just completely invincible. And he can go into follow-ups immediately. He also has Big Bang Upper, which is basically a Force Break 6p that leaps forward halfway across the screen. In this game, if you want to do a reversal as Slayer, or if you want to do an invincible special move, you actually just have to do the backdash cancel, and you actually have to time the input properly. That's a non-zero level of execution. Like, straight up. But that's not a combo. However, if we were talking about those big counter hits that I said earlier, right? Say that you get a counter hit with 6p, which is an anti-air counter poke, which, like, that happens all the time. You can do the easy thing, which is Dandy Step Pile Bunker, and that's like, big chunk of damage. But you get really bad Oki, and your opponent is very far away from you. So unless you're facing the corner, you can like fling your opponent across the stage, and like I said, no Oki, no corner position, nothing. So instead, what you may want to do is like 6p, Dandy Step into Crosswise Heal, which is this upward like anti-air 2-hit launcher, and then you can juggle off of that and go into an air combo. And Slayer's air combos are the reason why I'm putting him here. There could be like, the argument to be made that he's actually here, but I think, given that his air combos involve a particular combination of normals, and using them and like extending them is actually like fairly difficult and hard to eyeball, in my experience, I'm putting him up there. The thing I'm talking about is Jump 2K, which is the little knee hop thing that he does in the air. And the way that you extend his air combos is by going into that move from a Gatling and then linking out of it. So you'll do something like get a big hit, or like crosswise, and then you'll do ground button, jump cancel, couple of Gatlings, jump 2K, link into couple of Gatlings, jump 2K, into like Gatlings, double jump, Gatlings, jump 2K, Gatlings, jump D as an air knockdown. And if you do that properly, you can carry your opponent like halfway across the stage off of a random anti-air and put them in the corner and get good Oki. And that's like really hard to do. Or at least it feels that way. And I say this not because Slayer has weird timings for any of his normals or whatever, or because he has all this weird hit stop and non-standard hit stun to work with. I'm saying that mostly because if you're getting like scrapping hits, or if you're not getting like these big, huge counter hits that give you all the time in the world to stabilize, you are interacting a lot with Jump S. And Slayer Jump S is a really funny button. It's the one where he flails his arms and legs around and goes, ha 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 ha. And that button is hilarious, but the hitboxes on it are so fucking wonky and so fucking weird that it's actually unbelievable how inconsistent this thing is. And I say this just from my experience trying to play Slayer as like a fun secondary character, which is not that involved, admittedly. So, like, the hitboxes are literally little squares on his hands and feet as he's moving them around every frame. And so whether you get 1 hit, 2 hit, 3 hits, or I think up to 4 with Jump S is really, really hard to know based on position, hurtbox shape, and other things. It's possible I'm hyperfixating on this and I'm doing that thing with Slayer that I talked about with May, But every time I've tried to play this character, I do jump S, and I have no idea what's going to happen. So you can do a different route. You can do like jump K Gatling into jump 2K. But that's less damage because you're getting fewer hits and because jump S does more damage in general. So if you're going into the air with Slayer and you want to do like hard combos, I think that you kind of have to do those. Because if you're just playing Slayer to swing and be a monkey, I mean, that's obviously what you're doing because that's what Slayer does. I think that you need to know how to do these air combos in order to do anything, like in order to rise above the crowd, basically. Anybody can pick Slayer and push 6p and like eyeball Pile Bunker and be like, whoa, 35% damage off of an anti-air. That's crazy. Not everybody can like position themselves so that they get like 5p single hit confirm counter hit, dandy step, crosswise, 5h, jump cancel, and then do like a 12 hit string of jump K or jump 2K loops that carry you halfway across the screen. So that's my opinion of Slayer. If you play Slayer, I'd be very curious if you agree with that or not, and if I'm over-exaggerating it. Because to me, it's like this character lives in two different worlds, and if all you do is like close/far/, then it's like, it's probably down here. But if you want to do the like actual good things and build lots of meter so that you can spend lots of meter on Roman cancels and burst dead on time, because we all know that you want to do burst dead on time, then obviously you will need to do the more advanced combos. One thing that Slayer does have is that when he gets you to the corner, his roots are very, very stable and basically completely universal because he interacts very well with that wall slump mechanic I was talking about. So, that's Slayer. Easy combos on the ground if you're doing really stable things, but if you're scrapping, which of course you are, and if you're trying to convert off of your questionably invincible backdash special moves, then it's going to require a bit more precision, and especially if you want to do the bigger combos. There's a very compelling argument that it's like, you could just put him here. Maybe it is better to put him here now that I'm thinking about it. I don't know. To me, the delta of just Slayer doing Gatlings and Slayer doing optimized combos is so large that it's almost like Potemkin thing, where if you're just playing Potemkin and you're just playing a fundamentals monster, you're missing out on like 70% of the character. And if you're just playing Slayer and just using normals, and you just want to have like big damage in your pocket, just pick Sin or like Kai, maybe Faust. I don't know why you'd pick Slayer just to swing with his normals. Like, they're good, but I really feel like you need to do the combos if you want him to be as threatening as he can be. That's my opinion. Next up is Dizzy, and Dizzy is an example of a character who is perceived to be fairly difficult, I think. I certainly perceive her that way, and I've played the matchup a lot against people who are good, and occasionally I've run into people who are really, really, really good. And there are definitely a lot of things you can do with her that demand very high execution. However, for purely her combos, I think she's actually not that bad. So I put her in the stable character-specific routes or optional unstable routes. And what do I focus on when I'm looking at that classification? Well, like most characters, she kind of has a very standard like setup and then set play kind of game plan. If you compare her to Bedman, the first knockdown or the first hit is usually a knockdown, and then the second hit is Okizeme, and the Okizeme sets up another knockdown. And timing that Okizeme is difficult, genuinely difficult. We'll come back to that. But if you look at like how she's acting in the grand scheme of the game, that combo or that hit that she gets into a knockdown is probably like poke into sweep into special move into H laserfish, which is the ground laserfish. And that's very active, so it's very easy to cover multiple wake up options and everything. And then if she gets an air hit with like 6p, then she can go into 4S, which is the multi-hit normal, and then she can go into Ice Spike, the big ground Ice Spike, and then that will give a knockdown as well. Ice Spike, I'm pretty sure actually has like unique hit stun, so that it basically always knocks down unless you're too high. I've seen long combos end with it and it knocks down, and short combos end with it and it doesn't knock down. So I think there's something going on with like a unique hit stun value there. Or there's just some weird gravity scaling thing going on. Anyway, the point is to say that when Dizzy hits you, she's usually hitting you with a projectile at the same time as she is. And if she wants to do a setup, it's like sweep, special move, summon, and then do Oki. And if she's hitting you while she's doing Oki, it's probably sort of stabilized into a way where she can keep you in the ground or on the ground and doing something that is, button, special move, knockdown, Oki. Where it gets a little more difficult for Dizzy is that above a certain height, like if she air to airs you, or if she gets like a 6p against like an extended downward hurt box, then you're getting hit high up in the air, and then she can't knock you down. Even if she spends meter on like Ice Spike RRC or something, I don't think it knocks down. And even if it were to, that would be a pretty inefficient way to spend meter. So generally what she'll do is she either gets an air hit and does air gatlings into jump D, and all of her air normals are quite large, so she doesn't have a problem connecting them, and then jump D hits you up, so she falls down and then goes back to summoning and controlling neutral. And if she gets a hit on the ground, she just combos into a sweep. There are more advanced things she does, and those are where we're talking about whether or not she's doing something that's stable or unstable or hard or easy. Because all the setup and all the like basic conversions off the setup are honestly pretty easy. The biggest difficulty about Dizzy, and I think this is similar to what I talked about with May, is that if you don't know how she works, or if you're brand new to the character, she just has a million special moves, because she has a fire version of every move and an ice version of every move, and sometimes different projectile trajectories for them. So having all of those in your brain and just having all of those accessed is really difficult, and it's like a ton of information overload. However, if you make it past that, and if you realize that, it's not a terribly well executed idea because the ice version is what you use in almost all situations, and the fire version is only really used in specialized combos, then you will quickly realize the majority of her neutral game is very straightforward, and the majority of her confirming off of hits in neutral is also very straightforward. And whether you get a knockdown or not is kind of out of your hands, but it's not out of your hands in such a way that the combo drops and your opponent gets to attack forward at you. It's more like, oh, I get an air hit, I have to do jump cancel, I have to do a jump combo, I do jump D, it works, I go back to summoning. If you look at what she does with meter, then that's where things get complicated. Because her traditional 50 meter dump combo, or her 50 meter RRC combo, Red Roman Cancel combo, is like Ice Spike, RC, instant air dash, jump H, summon fire bubble, manually delay or slight delay, and then pop fire bubble with like jump S or something, so that the jump S hits, the delayed fire bubble explodes while Dizzy is beginning the startup of H fire pillar, or the fire pillar on the ground, and then that lets her combo into other things. Or I believe she does this loop where she summons a laserfish, and then she summons a laserfish, does fire pillar hits, juggles into laserfish, another fire pillar hits, and then the knockdown, right? That sounds like a lot of inputs, but like I said earlier with like Raven or May, or to a lesser extent Millia, if you're capable of doing an instant air dash combo and if you're capable of doing an instant air dash, you're capable of doing that combo, because the instant air dash is by far the hardest thing in it. So Dizzy has this weird like front-loaded perception of difficulty where all of her combos require you to know all of her special moves, and you kind of have to use like really particular ones so that they hit in the correct distance or the correct timing. But if you do memorize them, it's actually not that bad. Now, the reason why I would say Dizzy is like strategically overall probably like one of the harder characters to play is because her Okizeme is extremely different depending on what wake up timing she's facing, like face up or face down of her opponent, what kind of hit she gets, like the exact height that you want your anti-air or your juggle into Ice Spike to hit at, which kind of ice bite fish you're doing, and how you want those to connect. So I said earlier that she can generally do the laserfish as a meaty projectile, and that will cover most wake-ups because it's really active. But if you get something more stable and more specialized, or if you're just really familiar with wake-up timings, then you can get an ice fish, and the ice fish has 2 bite patterns. It's either 3 quick bites or the 2 delayed bites. And these don't combo on hit, so they're purely meant as like block string filler. And the reason why this is difficult is because they have far fewer active frames than the laserfish does. So having a laserfish is like the easy, simple Oki, and having a bite fish is so much better and gives you so many more opportunities for combos and mix-ups and just stagger pressure in general, that it's what you want to do in order to be good with Izzy and to make her as threatening as she can be. But that's Okizeme, not combos. If you want to do simple Oki and you want to do simple combos, she's actually pretty forgiving for that. It's just, if you eat a counter hit DP or something, or if you get counter hit by an anti-air, you tend to evaporate, and that kind of sucks. But frankly, she's, you can either do the optional difficult route, or you can do the stable route that will work out for your character or for your situation, for your opponent or your situation. Moving on, we have Ino, and Ino marks the definite start of this last stretch of characters who I think have a perception of being difficult, along with Dizzy, but whose actual placement on this combo difficulty list may surprise you, which is to say that the difficulty of playing them either doesn't exist or it comes in other places. And Ino is a very, very easy character to play. I'm putting her in the choice of stable or unstable routes category purely for her combo difficulty. And this is because in the older games, and this is where her reputation of hard combos comes from, in the older games, she had this really funny thing where the motion for horizontal chemical love, or just chemical love if you're coming from Strive, was a super input. So you would literally start in neutral, you would go forward, have circle back, forward button, and then that would be HCL. She also had an FRC point on HCL, so if you wanted to combo off of it, you would have to do that input, and you'd input the attack button for HCL, and then you'd have to push the 3 other attack buttons for the FRC, or you'd have to be very quick with your inputs. And if you wanted to combo off of it, that's just doing the FRC, and I think it's like a 2 or 3 frame window. And if you wanted to combo off of it, it requires you to do an air dash immediately out of the FRC. So the input for that and the strictness of the inputs tends to work out in such a way that you have to do the motion and then forward. It's the motion, do HCL, and then you have to input forward, FRC, go back to neutral, forward. So 6, FRC 6. And that means you have a very small window to have the game remember that you're trying to do a forward air dash and actually allow you to do it. This was and still is very hard in the older games because the buffer is generally less forgiving and the inputs are less forgiving, and trying to do something really fast does actually require you to do the inputs yourself. In Exerd, they made all of this a lot easier, and there are no FRCs, there are just YRCs, so you can start a combo like this. So Ino doing also the input for her horizontal chemical love is now just a quarter circle motion. So you can just do the input, sort of FRC it or YRC it whenever it seems right, and then just input the air dash and you have all the time in the world. So that's like the #1 hard combo thing about her that people remember from the old days, and that's just not in the game anymore. And that's true of a lot of characters. Like Kai doing stun edge FRC in the older games is a huge pain. And if you think that, seriously, if you think that newer games are like too easy and that's bad, I just want you to go into +R training mode and just try to do stun edge FRC with Kai for like 10 times in a row. Just try, and then try to like actually do anything off of it. It's so friggin' annoying. But in addition to the FRC stuff, she also was just a high APM character where you had to be inputting forward dashes, back dashes, instant air dashes, air forward and back dashes all the time. And I think the way that she spends meter in plus R sort of helps to alleviate this, because she can spend meter on force breaks that stabilize combos, or she can just do supers. Oh, that's another thing that I should talk about. Her high execution technique from the old game, which is to do the air super ultimate fortissimo as a cross up, does still exist in Exerd. So in order to do that, you have to do her hover dash, which is tap forward, or 6-6, double tap forward. And then as you're going over your opponent's head, you sort of have to input the super direction in reverse, and then you have to time the button properly. In Exerd, this is more difficult because in order to combo off of it, and I'm sort of entering the theoretical realm here because I never looked too hard into Ino's combos, you have to not do the like normal hover dash version. You have to do like hover dash fast fall so that you are as close to the ground as possible after when you do ultimate fortissimo, because that will let you land and then do like ground button into instant air dash into a combo. All this is to say that like all of this sounds hard, right? Like, oh man, difficult techniques, even if they're okizeme techniques or movement techniques, not combo techniques, like that's difficult, right? That does give you some degree of messing things up. But the thing about Ino is that she's really good at mix-ups, and her whole like character dynamic is that if you are anywhere near her within, I'd say, like far slash range, she can just mix you for free, like totally unreactably, because she has either sweep or 2K, or she has hover dash jump K, which hits around like 10-ish frames, I think. And those are just like completely impossible to react to or defend against. So having that is not bad, and relying on that is not bad. So if you get any hit with Ino, you can Gatling into special moves, and instead of doing the hard combos, which would be like 5H, instant air dash, jump S, button, dive, partial charge dive, something like that, you can just do 5H, instant air dash buttons into like VCL and then HCL follow-up, or HCL and then VCL follow-up, I forget exactly. But that will knock down from literally anywhere on the screen, and she gets incredibly good Oki on everybody against every wake-up option anywhere on the screen from every combo. So she's got really easy things to do because most of her neutral is just flailing with hover dash normals, occasional stroke, occasional HCL, or setting up note if for some reason you're dumb enough to respect all those three options. And then the note allows her to go in and she can just mix. And then once she gets the hit's easy to confirm into a knockdown. The knockdown leads to very good okizeme, and that okizeme reliably leads into more knockdowns. Now, I will say, when I talked about Slayer, I talked about the delta between doing the simple combos and the delta between doing the hard combos, which I felt was enough to put him up in this, right? For Ino, because her mix-up game is actually like infinitely better than Slayer, and because I think her air combos are easier, not because like there isn't something that you can drop, but because her air combos are like 5H, IAD button into special move into another couple buttons. Regardless of whether you're doing the extremely basic version of the air combo or you're doing the like extremely high execution top like hard to do, easy to drop version of the air combo, you're still getting the combo, and you can just choose to do the simpler version to keep the knockdown, to keep things in your favor. I've tried not to weave the okizeme and the combo difficulty together too much in this list, but Ino is a character who just lives and exists by virtue of how good her mix-ups are. So the fact that you can get them from everywhere against everyone under every circumstance is really a huge deal, because Slayer does not get that. Slayer also doesn't have projectile pokes that reach halfway across the screen. So, to summarize, Ino does genuinely have a lot of like hard combos, and if you look up, you can actually look up this video by Sea Leaf Dojo, who has a lot of character-specific stuff on Ino, and you can find all of these extremely cool, extremely high execution combos where she picks up a character in player one corner, does a bunch of these IAD combos into air VCL, vertical chemical love, lands, rejumps with, or lands, hits with close slash or something, rejumps, does another air sequence, and those are really cool, and those are sick. And like if if she had nothing else going on, I'd probably put her up in like here or here. But the simple fact is, the reason why Ino is terrifying is because she can just mix you by existing on the screen, and every hit can lead into a stable knockdown. If she didn't get that knockdown and she had like the Kai problem or the Dizzy problem, then maybe that would be something to talk about because she would just have to flail more and RPS more. But she can choose to be stable or she can choose to be unstable. And any character who has that luxury of choice is not really that hard. Because in any situation where you get the hit, you don't have to have the jam problem where you don't have a resource, your opponent's too high above you, you're not sure how the attack is going to connect. With it's just button into special move, take your knockdown, run your Oki. And it's not her most fucked up Oki. It's not nearly her most fucked up Oki, but it is still really good. And for that reason, I'd put her in this category. After Ino, we have Johnny, and Johnny has definitely the biggest perception of being a hard top tier character, mostly again because of how he was in the older games. Because in the older games, and this is not something that you can really get a handle on just by playing plus R, because plus R Johnny has a bunch of special moves and force breaks that like Reload Johnny didn't, and Reload is the Guilty Gear that we've been playing since 2004. And in that game, Johnny has like one way to throw coin. He has one thing that he can do with Mistfinder, and Mistfinder level 3 is a combo ender rather than a combo extender and stabilizer. And he has a bunch of moves like Divine Blade and Killer Joker. I believe that, yeah, Killer Joker, which all sort of reach different areas on the screen directly around him and require like weird input they all seem to have different specific uses, because you can't just say, I'm going to do X, and then if you're too high, I will slightly delay X, and if you're too low, I will do 5p, 5p, X, and so on. So Johnny genuinely is a very hard character to combo with in the older games, and that's why I put him in the same tier as Because in Exerd, they removed things like Killer Joker. They took Zweihander and Divine Blade and made them the same move, which makes sense because they basically just are the same move. And all of these moves that he had were these special moves, where he would just like reach up and hit you, or reach down and hit you. Or in Senga, where he would just reach like over here and hit you, and it was an overhead. All of those things are sort of condensed into like two things, which are Zweihander, either the first hit or the projectile hit, and Mistfinder and Coin, because Mistfinder and Coin are related. So in the old games, characters' hurt boxes also tended to deform a lot more, and as Johnny, you were trying to hit people with Coin, and then have Coin connect into something else, right? And Coin was like this really obnoxious projectile because it had basically no startup, and it was very small and easy to get hit by. It was like easy to run into it, I should say. Like it traveled quickly in a very set distance. And if he decided to throw Coin, he would basically just win any interaction that took place in the next, or like during Coin's active frames. And if you wanted to combo into Coin, that was a little more difficult. And because of the way that it tended to hit, you couldn't do things like double Coin. Like in Exerd, Johnny can knock you down, and then he can throw Coin, dash up, do close slash as an OTG. The first coin hits you, and then he combos into the second coin. And both of these coins count as leveling up Mistfinder. So he goes from level 1 Mistfinder to level 3. And level 3 Mistfinder is a hell of a special move, honestly. Probably one of the best special moves I've ever seen in any video game. In any fighting game. In any video game, fuck it. Bayonetta has nothing on this character, by the way. Sorry, I forgot. Bayonetta is a Smash character. I meant like the original Xbox 360 Bayonetta. Anyway, the reason I'm making that comparison is because Johnny can choose to do the stable route, or he can choose to do the combo video, high execution, not going to sugarcoat it, top tier, whatever route. And that's what people perceive him to be, because that's what Johnny players would like you to think of him as. But in reality, all of the stuff that he wants to do is very easy to enforce, because all of his buttons are godlike, and his movement is godlike, and his backdash is probably broken. I mean, it's not like that different from other broken characters or other characters with broken backdashes, but like it's super broken. 7 invincible, 4 recovery. He moves backward a lot. Hard to hit him. Like, it's actually the same total duration as Millia. So if you ever wondered why it was hard to hit Millia when she backdashed and it was hard to hit Johnny, it's because they have the same total duration, except Johnny has 2 additional invincibility frames. Again, I'm playing Raven, I'm playing Kai. I have 10 frame far slashes, 11 frame backdashes. Just think about it. But to get back to the matter of combos, everything Johnny wants to do is informed by how good his pokes are and how good his movement is and how easily he can convert into coin and Mistfinder and do like stable Mistfinder combos. In the older games, he actually can't do that as often, and so you'll see Johnny players have to like sort of deal with the fact that his like forward dash is a little awkward, or that he doesn't get like maybe a huge reward off of 5H, or that he doesn't get like the ideal combo against everybody, right? Sometimes you literally just get like poke into special move and that's it. But in Exerd, they sort of reworked them and they made Mistfinder the core of what he does because they figured that was the coolest thing you could do. And as he hits you with coins, he levels up Mistfinder, and Mistfinder cancels are now a much more important part of his gameplay, as opposed to being one thing among many that he could do in the previous games. And this is less of an issue, but I do think it affects Johnny, which is that Exerd's screen deforms a lot less than the older games. And this isn't anything weird like the resolution of the screen affecting hurt boxes. That has happened in some games that I've heard of. But in Exerd and the older Guilty Gear games, the consistency of hitboxes does not depend on how zoomed out or zoomed in things are. However, it can make it seem like moves hit inconsistently. And I've noticed this a lot playing Faust in the other game, in Plus R, because he has like Far Slash or 2H, which look like full screen moves if you have the screen zoomed all the way in, but if you zoom the screen out, they look like half screen moves. And so that middle ground, where the screen is partially zoomed in, often messes with my judgment, and I will often have my moves whiff directly in front of somebody's face. Am I giving my opponents credit for spacing outside my normals? No, I'm not. I never miss. So Johnny has that had that problem where you would wall bounce somebody with like level 2 Mistfinder, and then it's like, okay, will coin connect here? Will my normal connect here? Do I have to go into an air combo, etc.? So that's one unstable thing, and that varies a lot from screen positioning, from interaction, per matchup, per character. Then once you actually get the hit, what do you want to root into? Well, in the older games, he wants to do single hit Ensenga or Enkasu. Kasu is the Japanese word for single hit Ensenga, and we can't just say single hit Ensenga because we obviously have to use the Japanese word because we're Guilty Gear players and we're huge weeaboos. So in order to do that, that requires like specific spacing and specific combo routes and everything. And I'm not sure that it's very practical. Or you just have to do Ensenga, and on the first hit you'll spend meter to Roman cancel, and that's a first hit Ensenga, or a single hit Ensenga. He also had techniques like instant overhead or TK Ensenga, which was like not that difficult, I think, but it was one thing that could go wrong. In Exerd, he has something very similar where his downward Mistfinder is an overhead in air Mistfinder stance. So, like, yeah, it's just a quarter circle motion, and you can just do it very easily. All of this is to say, I think the thing that makes Johnny so perceived to be difficult and yet actually so simple is that in the older games he was genuinely like a really hard character to play because he had a lot of different things to do and he had to choose the best thing to do in each situation, and that was not always something that he could just keep pushing to the maximum possible benefit. Whereas in Exerd, they just removed all of those and they sort of simplified it and they said, hey, Mistfinder's crazy juiced now. We made coin better. It does more hit stun and block stun, so it's easier to combo into, and it's easier to combo with. And we sort of changed the screen so that characters aren't like zooming in and out and deforming constantly, and character hurt boxes are like a little more universal now, a little larger, right? So hey, go nuts with that, right? Do the cool Johnny Mistfinder things. And they sort of kept the single hit and Senga gameplay as well, because now he tries to do single hit Zweihander, so that the physical kick will connect, but the projectile, like, cheese thing won't. And that's actually not difficult to do. People have just found routes into that for a variety of different character weight classes and character matchups. So if you're willing to browse the Google sheet in the Johnny page on Dustloop, you can just do it. Like, it's not hard. Another thing, again, I have to talk about it. The front-loaded execution on Johnny is like Dizzy or May. It's more like Dizzy, honestly. And trying to do that has so many weird little inconsistencies to it that if you've never played Johnny before and you were just trying to do X combo with him, it's going to feel incredibly difficult. But if you practice a little bit, if you practice like 20 minutes a day or something, soon enough, in like the grand scheme of things, in like 1 week, 2 weeks, you'll just be able to do these things consistently because you'll understand what the buffer window is and whether or not the buffer window works with the move that you're trying to do. Something as simple as 5H Mistfinder cancel at level 3 into far slash, or 6H Mistfinder cancel at level 3 into at level 1, I think, into far slash might seem incredibly difficult, but once you get used to it, it's actually just not. Also, while I'm talking about difficulty, and before I end off this section, I'm just going to say, Johnny players love to psyop people into believing that he has anything at all that's difficult about him. And one thing that they have consistently said throughout Exerd's entire lifespan, back when he was first introduced and back when he was broken, more broken if you can believe it, is that his forward dash is a commitment. It's a weakness. Removing this was actually one of the last things I did on Dustloop before I got permabanned, and it's one of the greatest things that I ever did, and I'm really happy about that. Because Johnny forward dash is an 18 frame forward dash where on frame 1 he loses his hurt box underneath his knees, which means that's a reversal option against low pokes. It goes over low pokes. It builds meter, and like, you also just have a bunch of normals that cover the same distance that he travels with the forward dash. So, like, you don't have to use it if you don't want to, which means that it's not a weakness. Genuinely, maybe this is going to sound strange, but genuinely, it's harder to set up and use Raven's forward dash against whatever than it is to do Johnny's forward dash just because you feel like it and randomly have things work out in your favor. The ranges that Johnny operates, he can either do forward dash, or he can do like far slash, or 6H, or 5H, or coin, and he just works. Whatever he picks is either fine or not disastrous. There's also this little trick you can do with Johnny where he can technically cancel his forward dash on frame 14, and Johnny players also love to pretend like this is meaningful at all. Oh man, I was practicing it. I can get the frame 14, the frame jump cancel. I can do this, and it's like a 2 frame lower commitment, and it never matters. It literally never matters. Even if it were an 18 frame commitment, it wouldn't matter. It's not hard. I feel like I'm sounding bitter here. I'm not. I think Johnny's really cool, and I'm happy that a cool character is like the top tier who's ever lived in this game, because I don't want fucking Bedman to be a top tier character. But I do think that we all collectively need to start realizing that Johnny is actually not a very difficult character, simply because all of his combos are so within his control. If you want to do the combo video stuff, where you do 25 different combos off of close slash against every character, you can do that. If you don't want to do that stuff, and you just want to play like Omito or Karinchu before he retired, and you just want to do stable stuff, I guess it's more like Omito, you can just do that, and you just force people into these nauseating mix-up situations, and you just win, because it's so hard to deal with, and it's so hard to prevent from happening in the first place. Like I said, Okizeme informs combos. Johnny has the best combos that lead to the best Okizeme, that lead to the best combos, that lead to unblockables, that lead to the best combos and the best Oki, and so on and so on. So I think he's actually not a very difficult character to play. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention is that Mistfinder cancels in the older games, which is where you input Mistfinder, like button into Mistfinder, into manual exit Mistfinder stance. Those had to be manually timed, I believe. But in Exerd, level 3 Mistfinder stance will, or level 3 Mistfinder will do the mist cancel for you automatically. So you can input the like 5H, 214, K plus H, and that will give you K Mistfinder into the fastest possible Mistfinder cancel. So all those cool combos that Johnny does, where he does like 5 jump Ds in a single jump and then rejumps and then does more jump Ds and then ends in a Mistfinder juggle. Yeah, he didn't actually have to do execution for those. It's like that weird legacy thing for Chipp I was talking about, where they have this thing that's like really hard and really obnoxious. So they'll just put something in the game to make it like trivially easy, but they won't tell anyone and they won't really think about what kind of consequences that has. So that's Johnny. I don't think he's very difficult. Next up, we have Ramlethal, who is another character, I think, who is perceived to be way more difficult than she is, partially because I do genuinely think she's like a very difficult character to play, but also because a lot of the reason why she's difficult is because her moves are weird to control and weird to input. There's also the sort of secondary cultural effect where a lot of people who play Ram are coming to her from Strive, and Strive Ram, throughout all the changes she has gotten, throughout all the nerfs and buffs and everything, she has always been a character who can do 5H, 6H gun shoot or sword shoot, 6H gun shoot, sword shoot, and then just kill you, right? She's always been this character who just swings with these giant swords and just kills you. Especially when the game first released, and apparently especially in, what are we in now, Season 4, where they made the swords stay out, even when she got hit, and there was also some kind of bug related to the guard crush on the sword. And that's been ironed out now, apparently, but that's her reputation in the newer game, which has totally supplanted everything that Guilty Gear used to be. So people play Ram in that game, and they hear she's hard in this game, and they think, finally, a Ram where I have to think a little bit, I'll play her. And then it's like, holy shit, I have to do all these hard things, and it's really difficult, and this is not Strive. Oh my god, dash macro, please. Sorry. Anyway, I'm putting Ram in the unstable mandatory routes, and there's a very particular reason for this. Ram's kit and moveset, sorry, I shouldn't say kit, I'm not a Smash player. Her moveset is basically split in half, and on the one side, she sort of has this mechanic, or these ideas that would become Strive Ram, where she has these giant swords, and she can swing with them, and she can deploy them, and recall them, and everything, and that lets her to do like these cool juggle combos, where she'll hit you, and then, or she'll set a sword, she'll hit you, and then sword swings, and then she does an air combo. And then there's the other half of her, where she's a Tekken character, and she has the PPPK, PKKK, KPP, KP, whatever strings that we all love from Tekken. And those moves are like really awkward and really hard to use in combos. Because she's essentially operating like if Ram is standing here, all of the PK moves hit like basically here, and all of the sword moves hit like out here. And there's no easy way for her to control this middle distance without hard committing to something. It should also be clarified, it should also be stated that I haven't really talked about like move input overlap a lot for these characters, but for Ram, that is definitely something that affects her a lot. Because her great swords, the swords are controlled with the S and H buttons. So like deploy sword is forward plus button, so forward plus H, and recall sword is back plus H. So she has combos that she does where she's trying to do like, button into Dauro, which is her electric upper, and that launches. And then she wants to do like micro dash, close slash into something else. And like, if you hold forward while you're doing the close slash, or if you hold forward and input close slash, she just won't do close slash. She'll do S sword set. And that's really annoying. Like, putting the stick back in neutral specifically to do a normal, and then putting it, and then inputting directions, and then doing all these micro dashes. That's really annoying. And it's even more annoying because for Ram, a lot of her standard combos, or like her most standard combo, is like do some launcher into, I think it's like PP back K, into microdash, PP back K, microdash KKK, or PPP, depending on distance from the corner. And then you do Oki. So every time that you do that microdash, you have to return the stick to neutral, because 5p or back p is like, or 6p as well, are like different. They behave differently. So if you push forward plus p and if you push 6p, she does the anti-air, and that's not a combo attack normal, so that's just the end of it. And if you push 4p, then that's basically, then that behaves the same as 5p. However, if the follow-up attack, say that you want to do microdash 5pp, right? You'd have to do 6/6 for the microdash, 5 or 4p, and then for the second p, you would have to do 5p specifically. Because if you do 4pp, then that just is 2 5p attacks. Like, it's not like Raven where she has different attacks for 4p and 5p. She just has the ability to self-gatling her 5p, but you have to hold back while you're doing it. So the combo is like button into Daura launcher, 6/6, 4p, 4 or 5p, 5p into like chain sequence launcher, and then microdash, 5p, p. Like, it's the same thing where you can't input, you can't hold you need to do a microdash, but you can't hold forward when you're doing the actual attack. And like, in a sense, that is authentic to the Tekken games that she was inspired by. In particular, like Tekken Tag 2, which was like the newest Tekken at the time Exerd was being developed, where you have like tag partners and you control tags and you have like this active tag switch kind of thing. But like, man, it's really different because Tekken has a 10 frame buffer on everything, I think. So if you want to do like take a step forward and then do a string, you don't really have to time it that difficult, or that with that degree of precision. In this game, there's I think a 3 frame universal buffer, so it's a 4 frame window to hit things that are allowed to be buffered. Microdashes also, by the way, are not allowed to be buffered. It's that thing I was talking about where movement doesn't count as a distinct action. So if you wanted to do launcher into microdash, you still have to manually time that. So if this were like one kind of combo structure that she had where it's like Dizzy, right? On the ground, she does these, like if Ramlethal were sort of the inverse of Dizzy, where on the ground, she does these incredibly, incredibly difficult, obnoxious juggle combos, but then in the air, she gets these like really simple combos that are really good. That would be one thing. But if Ram hits you in the air, her best combo option is like the single jump S into Martelli Forpelli, which are the like sword swing attacks, not the deployed sword swing attacks, just the like sword recall and swing attacks. These are like just sort of combo filler special moves that return the swords to her. And that can hit very weirdly depending on distance. So go into training mode, try it out. If you do 6p with Ram or 6p close S or something, it's really difficult to do even like jump S, double jump S, Martelli Forpelli, because she's not at the right distance and Martelli and Forpelli just don't reach upward enough to hit. So you'll specifically have to cut the combo short in order to get the combo to finish properly. And then on the ground, she also has to do all that really obnoxious juggle stuff I talked about. And those are definitely affected by character weights and character hitbox shapes. Doing a juggle combo on Millia is, I believe it's like very different from doing a juggle combo on Haehyun. I know that there are ways that where you can sort of get into a flow state with Ram, and you sort of have somebody in the corner and you'll do like knockdown, sword set, block string, sword hits, move forward. And like when you're doing these kinds of set play things where you're just running stuff from a playbook, that's okay. I think that's not particularly difficult. I wouldn't say that it's more difficult than like Dizzy summoning something and moving alongside it, or like Haehyun doing the tuning ball Oki and then moving alongside it. So in that sense, you can definitely get to places where her kid is stabilized. But the rest of the time, man, I don't know. Sorry, her moveset is stabilized. But the rest of the time, I don't know how you're supposed to control the screen with this character and have stable hits into stable Oki, into stable combos and stable Oki. It just seems like a lot of the time you have to do these very silly things, like just moving around and sort of hoping your opponent whiffs, or just like relying on literally just far slash all the time. Because remember, her H button is vertical in this game. So far S is a poke, H is an anti-air. Same thing with jump S. Jump S is a poke, jump H is a jump in. So, from my limited experience playing Ramlethal and the experience of playing against her, both from people who are like good and people who are just obviously not good, I see a lot of dropped combos and I see a lot of hits and a lot of situations where I think, man, what is Ram supposed to do there? As Raven, as Elphelt, as Faust, as Kai, as Leo, I can just do Gatlings or a special move or whatever. But as Ram, I kind of have to either do this tiny little Tekken chain combo, or I have to do this giant sword combo. And if there's any ambiguity at all, it just falls apart. So that's why I think Ram is one of the hardest characters to play if you want to do anything more than just one hit into special move. I said with Potemkin, you can sort of succeed by doing a fundamentals approach where you just play the grappler mind games and you anti-air people. And that's not the best thing that Potemkin can do, but it is a way to play him, and I have seen people succeed with that. With Ram, I don't know that she has a lot of stuff going on aside from all the extremely specific niche combo situation stuff that she has. And I think you need to do that if you're even wanting to be literate with the character. Next, we have Soul. And I put Soul in this because I think people perceive Soul as being a very easy character. He's the protagonist of the game, his face is on the box, and he has all of these moves that are just meant to be really easy for him to send out. And if you get hit by them, then he gets a full combo. Hey, maybe I'll do Fafnir. Oh, you got counter hit. Sweet, you're in the corner, I get a full combo. Maybe I'll do Bandit Bringer. Oh, sweet, you got normal hit. I do Microdash 5k, I get a little air combo, you're in the corner. Stuff like that. And that's definitely true. However, I don't want this to be like a beginner level difficulty thing. I'm trying to have a more holistic look at it. And against Soul's knowledge checks, like, not even knowledge checks, just like chump checks, like, are you blocking Bandit Bringer overhead? Are you blocking Bandit Revolver, standing, instant block, that kind of stuff? Against that, if you're not playing against somebody who just runs into Soul's best combo starters, I think his combos do generally get harder because they become either less rewarding because you'll have to do like spaced 2K into 2D or like spaced 4S or spaced 5H or something. Or you'll have to do like, you'll have to get the hit and then you'll have to go into dust loops or some kind of corner combo that may not be consistent or may require a lot of difficulty adjusting. So when I was first thinking about this, I think beginner Soul is like here because you just do buttons into like Volcanic Viper knockdown follow-up or into Bandit Revolver and it's like pretty easy. And then I was thinking, you know, maybe Soul is actually really hard because dust loops are hard and dust loops are character specific. And even from my time doing dust loops and trying to practice them against Soul, against Kai, against Millia, against like Potemkin, you know, different weight classes, different hurt box shapes, it feels like you have to do a lot of adjustments in order for dust loops to hit properly. And it's not just the dust loop, it's also what you do out of the dust loop and the combo ender you get. Remember, combos set up Oki, Oki makes combos better. And ultimately, I think I'm going to put Soul somewhere in the middle. So the dust loop is the thing I talk about with him a lot because it's his best combo, but it's not nearly as centralizing as something like Shinken loops or comboing into knockdowns that set up Secret Garden. He has things he can do, and if you never do a dust loop with Soul, there are other alternative combo options in the corner where you can do large amounts of damage. Usually it's like a dive kick loop, so you'll do like air gatlings or ground gatlings for a launcher, air gatlings, dive kick, I think it's 5H, jump cancel, air gatlings, dive kick, volcanic viper. And that's not as much damage as a dust loop, but it's still a lot of damage and a lot of meter gain, and it's still fine. Like if you just did that, I think you would have a perfectly competent Soul. So this is why I'm saying he has either the choice to do something stable or choice to do something unstable, and why I'm putting him here in the middle of the pack. It's weird, you wouldn't think Soul and Johnny and Eno are like the same level of combo difficulty based on the way people talk about them, but I think in practical terms, the way that their combo structures are laid out, it does work out that way. And what I mean is like, if you're playing, say you're playing a character like Mei, right? And you're not comfortable doing the corner dolphin stuff. You don't want to do 6H, H horizontal dolphin, and you don't want to do the instant air dash after that, right? I mean, you can just do like 6H into like hoop dolphin set, and that kind of that will be stable, but it does also give up like the entire combo. You're basically substituting the hard combo with an easier knockdown set play thing, and that's fine, but it's not amazing. Same thing with Slayer. You get an anti-air hit, and you can do like 1 rep of like jump K into jump 2K and link into jump PD, and that's like technically fine, but at that point you're just kind of ignoring what the difficult thing about the combo is. So I would say that Slayer could cut his air combos short before they become difficult and lose out on all that damage and take the knockdown. Soul, if he's doing like a corner combo or some kind of like hard, weird mid-screen thing, he could do the hard combo where he tries to stabilize into a dust loop, or he could do some alternative combo that does like 70% of the damage, but is very easy and very stable. Air Gatlings into Bandit Revolver, Air Gatlings into Volcanic Viper, that kind of thing. And the fact that he has 2 legitimately different combo routes at basically any time helps his combo flexibility a lot. Sort of the same thing with Eno, right? You can do a little bit of the hard combo with Eno and then do an easy ender. Whereas with Slayer, it's like, I'm just not doing the hard combo. I'm only doing a little bit of the hard combo and then the ender. I'm doing the hard combo up to the point where it becomes hard, and then I'm just stopping it. Whereas with Soul, it's like I'm doing a different combo that still does most of the damage, but is way easier. So I think that's why I'd put him here in having a choice of stable or unstable routes. It should also be noted that Soul is a character who is not going to die if his opponent techs out of a combo. Like, again, Dizzy, Bedman to a lesser extent, well, maybe about the same extent, they really don't want you to do any kind of air tech. They don't want you to get out. Whereas with Soul, it's like, oh, I dropped my dust loop and now my opponent is above my head. Whatever, I'll just go up there with jump P or jump H and we'll see what happens. Or my opponent is trying to jump at me. Whatever, I'll put up 5k. I will anti-air my opponent or be perfectly safe on whiff. Or, you know, who knows what happens. Or I'll just do Volcanic Viper. Like, most of the time you're probably just doing Volcanic Viper because you play Soul. But, you know, there are other things you can do. The point of this is Soul has, like I said, 2 different combos that he can do at basically any point. Same with Johnny. I mean, Johnny has like 6 different combos that he can do at any point, or Eno. And those combos, being able to choose between the hard combo or the easy combo means that he can always do things that are competent without having his combo literally just be like mash 2p 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 sweep and have bad Oki and no damage. That's a common problem that I notice among people who are talking about combo difficulty, is that they rate like non-functional bad combos the same as easy combos. And if Soul does, like, you know, say that Soul does Wild Throw, right, which already has damage scaling on it, you can do like 2H, jump S, jump SD, Bandit Revolver, and that's like corner carry, about a maximum damage without doing anything fancy, and you get a knockdown, and the Bandit Revolver knockdown is probably like a safe jump. Whereas you might think, okay, say that I'm not comfortable, say that I'm a total newbie to the fighting game genre, and I just, instead of doing the good thing, I just do jump, mash, P, 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 jump, mash, P, 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 jump H, or something, right? And there's no combo end down, no combo knockdown, no combo ender, no combo theory, nothing. Those 2 things are both trivially easy to do, but to call them the same thing is not truthful. So, like I said, Soul basically has 2 combos that he can do at any time, and one of them is like easy and does a lot of damage, and the other is like fairly hard or very difficult, and it does insane amounts of damage. So that's why I put him there. Soul is a very common character as well, so I'd be very curious to hear what your opinions are about my read on Soul and my take on his combat difficulty. Because I know that a lot of people play Soul, and some people just do the stable stuff because they enjoy his normals, and some people love to squeeze every bit of damage out of every interaction. So I really would like to hear. We're finally into the home stretch. It's only been about 6 hours of listening to me talk about this. Venom and Zato, the last 2 characters. Venom is a very easy character to combo with, and I'm just going to put him here. Again, he sort of has that legacy thing going on where people perceive that he's really hard, sort of like Johnny or sort of like Eno, because his mechanic is putting the billiards or the balls on the screen and then knocking them around, and then they hit you in weird ways, and sometimes they bounce off the ceiling or the walls or the floor. And you would think, looking at a character like that, it's so hard to control all of that, right? And there are definitely like really esoteric setups that Venom has, which would probably put him up here. Like everything that he does with Bishop Runout is crazy, is just crazy. A lot of his more advanced setups involve like some fairly difficult, fairly precisely timed sequences where he just has to do a lot of inputs very quickly. But overall, in the majority of cases, what are his combos that you actually do in matches? If Venom does, if you jump at Venom anywhere, he does 6p, and on normal hit, he can jump cancel into an IAD into an air combo, and that air combo is basically universal. It's going to be jump S, H, D, and then he falls to the ground, he does 6H, and then he does ball set, and then he gets Oki. Stable Oki that leads into stable combos. On counter hit, he can also do that IAD combo, or he can do 6P Gatling 6H if he just wants to take it, because that combo is only on counter hit. Although the number of Venoms I've played against who just dial in that combo or that Gatling on every hit and don't bother to hit confirm it, would imply that perhaps Venom players are not so keen at looking at the screen and actually identifying the situation. So that's the anti-air stuff. On the ground, what does he do? Well, he's like a setup character like Bedman or Dizzy, where the first hit is just a knockdown, and then he sets up a ball or two, and then you're eating the mix, right? So that's not hard, and I don't think the mix is particularly hard either, because, I'll let you in on a little secret, you don't have to interact with those mechanics if you don't want to. You don't have to do that complex stuff if you don't want to. Where have I heard that stuff before? Where have I heard that stuff before? Where have I heard this stuff before? Interesting. So what I mean literally is that if Venom does sweep, he can do cancel into K-ball, like the K-ball, which will create the K-ball into the K formation. And then he can just hold up forward, do a rising jump K, which will send the ball downward at a 45-degree angle. And then that ball will hit you meaty because it's very active and it travels fairly slowly. And then while you're being hit meaty, he gets to do a high-low. And he can do either the standard high-low air dash mix, which is very strong, or he can do high-low air dash further made more difficult by doing double hit, no, what is it? Mad Struggle, which is his multi-hit overhead dive kick. And if he does spaced Mad Struggle, like if you FDM out during the air stringer or whatever, or if he did like a max range 2D knockdown, maybe the Mad Struggle only hits like twice, but he can still link into like 2K or 2D. So he still gets a knockdown and he still continues to do this mix, which is really easy. And if he hits you closer, he can, or if he just does like the regular air dash mix and opens you up with jump H, then he gets to do close slash, and close slash, again, might be the kind of thing you think of as being difficult, because Venom close slash works on crouchers. Sorry, on crouchers, close slash's second hit will combo into Q5, and that launches, so we can do close slash 2 hits, Q5, which is the thing where he sets the ball in front of himself, like he punches the air and then it creates a ball. And then he can do 5P, which hits you, which hits the ball hits you, and that lets him Gatling from, or that hit stun from the ball lets him Gatling 5P 6H, and that will knock down. And normally 5P 6H doesn't combo, but because of the ball, it does. And then I believe you can also do like 5P hit you, ball hit, 6P air sequence as well, because you're being launched by Q5. So that's one option where he can do a crouch combo and have something really easy that's mostly universal. Or if you're standing and you get hit by like the low option, he can do close slash 3 hits and that launches. And from there, he can go into the same air combo I just described earlier with an instant air dash, jump SHD, 6H, ball set. You're eating the same mix that you were just eating 2 seconds ago. When all of this comes together, you have a character who has a ton of depth and a ton of, like, a huge skill ceiling, but doesn't need to rely on any of it if he doesn't want to. And the thing about difficulty is that If the difficulty is optional, it's not really difficulty. So I would say that he's sort of like spiritually similar to like May or perhaps Elphelt in that the difficulty is there. It's definitely there if you want it to be, but if you don't want it to be, then it doesn't have to be. And that is what makes Venom so easy to combo with, in addition to having very stable gameplay and very stable strategy. Also, if you're not jumping at Venom and he actually has to approach you, he's very good at doing that because he can just set balls and then hit them, and suddenly the screen has become polluted with 4 projectiles, and you just have to interact with him on his terms. So, I wish I had more to say about Venom, but all of the cool stuff is totally optional, and you don't need to do any of it. And even if you just want to spend meter in a cool way, you can just do like a knockdown into a charged ball set, into Dark Angel, which is the huge chip damage super, and that will probably just help you win the game, because you're stripping your opponent's resources in order for them to even survive the Dark Angel, and that makes it easier for you to do combos because your opponent's defensive options are limited. But that's strategy. I'm just trying to talk about combos. Venom's combos are really easy. That's all I have to say about Venom. Zato, our final character on the tier list, and one of the worst characters in the game if this were a regular tier list for matchups and overall strength, is an odd character to classify because, again, he's a legacy character. He has this reputation as being this really hard character with a ton of negative edge puppet inputs and everything, but he's an Exert, and Exert made things like simpler and more stable. Yeah, he's hard. If you've played Exert at all, you have probably heard about Zato, or you have spoken to a Zato player, and you have been informed that Zato is a very difficult character to play. And as much as I hate to give Zato players the benefit of the doubt on anything, this is correct. He's a very hard character to play. Mostly because any kind of situation where you would expect the game to have something easy to do or make it simple for him, it's more convoluted than other characters. It's less consistent than other characters. It requires higher execution than other characters, and he's limited by resources. So more convoluted, what do I mean? Well, say that you hit somebody with like 5p, which is a good mash button, right? Venom doesn't have a 5p 2D Gatling, so I think literally everybody else can do like mash fast button into sweep, into knockdown, and get set play. He can't do that. Oh, well, you'll think, okay, we'll just do close slash instead, right? Well, the thing is close slash is really, really stubby, and it has a very short proximity activation. That's something about these characters that I have not covered. They have character-specific proximity values for close slash. Zato's happens to be really far away, really close. Kai's happens to be really far away. So in a situation where you hit 5p with Venom, or with Zato, your combo might literally just be like 5p far S, couple of hits, 5h, or 2s, or something, into Summon Eddie, and that's it. Like, literally, you mashed on a really difficult situation, or you hit your opponent as he was moving towards you, and your reward for this is you get to summon Eddie, and you get to have, like, one special move. That's it. As for being, like, more character-specific or not being helped out by the game, say that Dizzy is comboing you in the corner, and she wants to combo into Ice Spike. If she's say Dizzy's here, and say the corner is over here, like at the edge of this, right? Now, normally if Dizzy's standing over here, the Ice Spike appears at this distance. So what happens if Dizzy is standing here, and the distance to the corner is less than the minimum distance for Ice Spike? Oh, well, the Ice Spike and the Fire Pillar just get pushed up against the edge of the screen. Really simple. Zato does not have that happen. So Zato's standing here. His distances for S drill, or S invite hell drill, is like here. The distance for H drill is here. If he's standing point blank in the corner, he will do the S drill, and it will just appear out here and just stop existing. I'm not sure if it actually continues to exist outside, but I imagine it stops existing. So even if he's got you in the corner, and even if he's got a stabilized combo with the corner dust wall slump stuff, which he does actually interact with pretty well, that stuff is not not consistent, because you have to do, like, you do the hard combo, and I'll get to the execution. You do a hard combo, you do the ender, and then you have to do like a number of hits of 5H so that the pushback is appropriate, so that you can either push yourself out really far and do H drill, or you do like 1 or 2 hits and then you don't push yourself out as far and you do S drill. It's very common, if you're not familiar with Zato, that you will attempt to do something like that, or just attempt to do button into drill, and you will actually summon a drill like behind your opponent or in front of them. And you can kind of see why they did this, because that's how it worked. I believe that's how it worked in the older games. And Zato could only summon the shadow on himself, so like who cares? But in Exerd, they gave him this unique property where summoning the drill creates a little puddle on the ground, and he can summon Eddie from that puddle. The thing is, you don't want Eddie summoned outside of bounds, because that would be stupid. So they probably just said, all right, we don't want Eddie always summoned in the corner. We don't always want Zato to have the best possible knockdown. So just have the drills go outside and not have the puddle there, so that you can't summon Eddie, rather than always having both drills accessible if you're pushed up to the corner. Because at that point, they behave identically, so what's the point, right? With Dizzy, Fire Pillar and Ice Spike behave differently, so there's a reason as to why you might want to use one or the other. And as for the execute, like, there are also all sorts of things about Zato's normals just like not working together properly in ways that you would expect. You can do a very simple thing with him, like jump and then do an air dash, jump SH, and his air normals are great. His air normals are really friggin' good. But then you try to do his ground normals, and it's like, oh, I would like to do close slash into 5H, please. Oh, close slash just didn't connect because, or sorry, 5H didn't connect because I was 2 pixels too far away when I did close slash, and so you got pushed out of the range of the first hit of 5H for no visible reason. He's full of tons of stuff like that. If you've never tried to do anything with him in training mode or never played him, seriously, go into training mode and just try to do the basic version of a combo that you've seen with other characters. It's so weirdly difficult and so weirdly inconsistent. And like I said, the game's not helping him out. The last thing I said was he has to do higher execution things than other characters for similar reward. What do I mean? Well, let's use Kai as an example of this, okay? When Kai knocks you down with sweep, not even getting into the fact that Zato's normals have these giant hurt boxes on them, so even the good ones like 2S or 2K are hampered by like a giant extended hurt box, or not having the range that you would want them to. Let's ignore that. Let's say that Kai knocks you down and he does charged stun edge, which is a 3-hit projectile, right? If he does like long range sweep knockdown and then summons charged stun edge from out here, it actually hits you to the point where he can do IAD, and then he gets sort of a soft mix from falling down with the from the end of the air dash. Zato wants to do something similar, and then he knocks you down, he summons Eddie, and then he will set up Mawaru, which is the buzzsaw, and he will use that, which is like a 4-hit projectile, and it will push you forward, and it's very active, and so he will like either run up behind it or do an air dash, and then that air dash leads to either a good mix or a soft mix. Problem is, in order for that to connect, he still has to manually time the Mawaru release, right? So depending on distance or knockdown or whatever, it may not connect on like the first possible active frame, and that's not like a huge thing, but it is some degree of failure. Also, if your opponent has an invincible move, or if you're timing it such that that the move does not connect on its first possible active frame, your opponent may be able to mash and just deny your Oki. Whereas with Kai, if you attempt to mash and discharge stun edge, you just get hit. And because of the timing, charge stun edge is on you and you're blocking it before Kai has to commit to the air dash, I believe, asterisk. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So if you just try to do like Volcanic Viper or DP or something, you will just get hit, or rather you will go through it, and then Kai gets a free punish. Whereas with this, with Zato, if you tried to wake up Volcanic Viper against Eddie, Volcanic Viper in particular has 2 hits, so Zato might run into it on the second hit. Also, with Eddie gone, because he ate the hit for you, Zato's combos now become friggin' terrible. So if he wants to punish Volcanic Viper, his combo is literally going to be like probably close slash sweep into what? Into no setup and no set play because he doesn't have Eddie. You could do something a little more damaging like close slash 5H just to get the damage and then maybe 5H drill, but that doesn't work unless your opponent is crouching. Now, Sol happens to be crouching after he does Volcanic Viper, but lots of characters aren't, like Sin or Kai or Chipp, I believe. So there's no guarantee that that's going to work. Essentially, in every situation where things could go wrong for Zato or things could be stacked against him, they are. And this isn't like a terribly forceful balance thing. It's just that, like, this isn't a terribly intentional balance decision. It's just that every character who got added to this game seems to be a bad matchup for Zato. So if you look at, like, Answer, Baiken, Dizzy, Raven, Leo to a lesser extent, Haehyun, all of these matchups suck. Johnny, I mean, everybody loses against Johnny. But like Jacko, right? Jacko's a nightmare matchup for Zato. Baiken, also a nightmare matchup for Zato. Long block strings full of mids and lows. Frame 1 counter that eats mids and lows. Projectile zoning with a puppet and long-lasting drills. Giant bubble around her that negates projectiles for 6 seconds. Eddie does count as a projectile for these purposes. You can't reflect Eddie, but you can negate him with projectile negating stuff. Like, it's rough trying to play Zato in these streets. And even if you do, like, that's just the lead into what this character does. What are his actual combos like? Well, air combos are the simplest. So if you anti-air with him, which would require you to do either 6P or an air throw, and his 6P is actually, like, all right. It's a little awkward to combo from because of the aforementioned issues with close slash. And because of the way the upper body invincibility is distributed among the active frames, it like it gains a hurt box after only a couple of active frames, or only after a short number of active frames. I forget the exact number. Trying the combo off of it is not always easy to do. It should also be pointed out that even if you do get an air combo with Zato, you can never knock down unless you spend meter on the Executioner Super, or Executor Super, which is the giant sword swipe. And that does actually no damage because it does like a million hits as he's turning into a sword and skewering you into the wall, which means that it builds back a lot of your opponent's burst, which means that your opponent can probably burst on the next knockdown, and so on and so on and so on. And even if you do get the combo, even if you just want to take the damage and reset to neutral and go back to zoning with Eddie, you do jump like SH, or like jump S, jump SHD, and that's it. Like, it's sort of similar to Dizzy, but, you know, maybe your normals just randomly don't connect in the way that you want them to. Although I will say, again, Zato's air normals, pretty friggin' good, so that's not really the hard thing about him. On the ground, his combos are basically stuff where he does things with Eddie, or stuff where he sets up Eddie. Setting up Eddie is like 2K2D or close S2D into summon Eddie, and then he does Okizeme. When he does the Okizeme with Eddie, he's doing Mawaru Buzzsaw, or he's doing like a manual blender where he will use Show, which is the P, like the negative edge P release thing. And that he'll position Eddie like in front of you or behind you, and then he will do like a button with Zato, push P behind that button, and then release the button with Eddie so that Eddie attacks, and it's like this constant aggravating block string. And that's like genuinely really good, but, you know, I'm not sure that it's better than just summoning an ice fish and just having it do that. I'm not sure that it's better than just summoning the teleport boomerang or the bed slam and just having that work. I'm not sure that it's better than just putting a 4-hit orb on somebody and doing a high-low. I'm not sure that it's better than doing disc and having instant overhead, right? I'm not sure that it's better than having manual release on one dolphin, like a single hoop dolphin. I'm not sure that it's better than just summoning a bunch of servants and having them pick away at your opponent while you do whatever. Manual control, annoying to do, and if your opponent is facing both Zato and Eddie, then he can just mash, and if Eddie dies, Zato really can't combo you. So the risk reward is also kind of skewed on a lot of the stuff Zato does. If he does get you to the corner, either because he's just pushing you there with Mawaru, or because he's doing, like, he actually managed to just outplay you and you're in the corner. He does have other things he can do, which are genuinely, like, really good. And those combos are, like, loops that involve doing Nobiru, which is the big negative edge S, release S anti-air, the big shark thing. And that will hit, and it will pop the opponent up, and then Zato will connect with Shadow Gallery, which is weird, like, anti-air thing. And that wall splats in the corner on normal hit. So he can loop, like, Nobiru and Shadow Gallery to do, like, big chunk of damage, wall splat, you fall down, big chunk of damage, wall splat, you fall down. And then he can try to end the combo with 5D and put you in that wall slump state, and then try to do that 5H drill stuff. And because you are crouching when you are wall slumped, he can do a more consistent version of that combo. If you compare Zato's, like, advanced combo video stuff with Johnny's advanced combo video stuff, or even Haehyun, really, or Venom, or Sin, or, like, really anybody, he has to work harder for a less stable combo, which is his only combo option. Like, his only meaningful combo option, aside from just doing, like, close/sweep. You can't really win a round off of just doing close/sweep, you know? Oh, and one final thing to point out is that Zato has all of his eddy actions limited by the eddy gauge, which is both a timer and something that depletes in chunks whenever he does one of Eddie's actions. So it's like kind of that high APM thing that I was talking about with Millia, or with, like, Chipp to a lesser extent, or Dizzy, where you have to have this thing that is manually controlled, the puppet in this case, and you have to say, okay, I get the hit. I do button into sweep. All right, I summon Eddie. Clock is ticking. Do Mawaru. Do instant air dash, or, like, flight something or other. All right, I get the hit. I line it up properly. Mawaru into dash, close/sweep, because I want to prioritize Okizeme. Unsummon Eddie so that the gauge begins regenerating immediately. Immediately summon Eddie. Do Mawaru because I need to do that because it's my only good Oki option, right? And at any point in here, if you flub your inputs at all, you just run out of time and you can't recover from it. Raven hits you down. Raven knocks you down from anything, and it's like 956. Have fun dealing with this mix-up. So, as I've said before, Oki and combos relate to one another, and I've mostly tried to make this a combo difficulty tier list, but in Zato's case, the combos lead to the Oki. Like, the Oki is what makes him good at all, and all of his combos are really awkward at setting up Oki. And I think if every character were like Zato, this would probably be fine, because he wouldn't be losing in that aspect. But you have characters like Dizzy, who get Ice Spike off of literally any poke. You have characters like Millia, who just fish around with Sweep or with 5H. You have characters like Raven, or Elphelt, or Faust, or Kai, who just sort of swing with whatever they want to, and they can probably convert it. Maybe not quite Faust. Maybe not the knockdown so much. Venom's a better example. Venom just pushes whatever normally wants, gets whatever combo, knockdown, run set play. And I'm not trying to make it out to be that this is like a bad thing, okay? Like, if you think Zato is cool, I think Zato is cool. Zato is a cool character. If you want to play Zato, you can have a lot of fun playing Zato. This character has a puppet that is totally yours to control. He has practical unblockables that loop back into themselves, and it's not cringe or like this psyop of fake difficulty or anything. It's just genuinely really hard to do. And it's not like a useless feint either. Or it's not like a zoning gimmick where you're just trying to make your opponent jump so you can anti-air. And this is like a real, true blue unblockable. Don't any of you motherfuckers call it a hard to blockable that you can beat with blitz. Fuck you. I've seen 2 people do that in the almost 10 years I've been playing this game. Fuck off. What I want to say about all of this is that Guilty Gear is generally a very easy game to do combos in. You can look at this. You can see I've got 4 characters in the like hard to combo with route or category, and then like 2 characters who have like some asterisks if you want to do more than basic combos. But the majority of characters in this game, the 19 remaining characters, have very simple combos, very stable combos, and several of them only really have like one combo that they want to do. Xrd Guilty Gear is an easy combo game. That's what attracted me to it. I came from Smash, and this is going to be a bit of a tangent, but this video is like 3.5 hours long. So if you're watching to this point, then first of all, thank you. Please go outside. Please take a drink of water. But you probably don't care about one more tangent, right? So I started playing fighting games because I played Smash, which is not a fighting game, and I got really upset about how difficult it was to do stuff in Smash Bros. Melee. Not like I was like crying or anything, but I found the execution grind of doing wave dashes over and over and over and doing L cancels just to be like really unsatisfying. I had a training mode mod, actually. I paid like way too much money for a memory card that had training mode in it, and it was just really freaking annoying. So I went looking for another game that would combine the things that I liked about Smash Bros. With easy to execute stuff. And Exerd happens to be that game, and that's its own story. But one of the things that I remember saying to people and talking about people with when this game was being played is that it's really easy to pick up and play. You can just do buttons into other buttons, and it's really simple. And that remains true. That remains true back from Guilty Gear X or Guilty Gear XX in like the 90s and 2000s, all the way up to Exerd. It's simple to do FAR S5H special move. It's simple to do 2S 2D. Like, it's easy. Where the difficulty comes in, and this is something that people have hyper fixated on in the like propaganda revisionism that Strive has put out, is that the difficulty is in accounting for character specific stuff. The difficulty is in finding the right hit. The difficulty is in weighing how to control two things at the same time that are sort of working against each other. The difficulty comes from eyeballing a resource and thinking, do I have enough to do what I want to do? When you do get a combo in this game, putting moves together is the simplest thing in the world. Considering how you want to spend meter, if the basic version of the combo will work, or if you have to do a hard version, if it will even work on your opponent based on height and position and hurt box shape, if you can get the knockdown, whether you can get the knockdown or kill, because just cashing out on damage is almost never good, or whether it is something that you are comfortable doing, just cashing out on damage and playing neutral again. I'm comfortable cashing out on damage and playing neutral against like Faust, or maybe not Faust, maybe Leo, but I'm not comfortable doing that against Millia or against Mei. I want these characters to suffer as like every time I hit them, right? And that's a decision you have to make both at the character select screen and in the heat of the moment many, many times. Is it hard? Yes, but it's also really fun. And this is why knockdowns and okizeme are so prevalent in Guilty Gear in general, but also Exerd is in particular. Above all, and I hope this is the one salient thing that you can take away from this video if you just skipped to the end to see where your character was on the tier list. Above all, talking about characters as hard or easy accomplishes nothing except this. It gives people reasons not to play your game. This is something that anime fighters in particular are really bad at, but I also think it's something that fighting games in general are just bad about. I think maybe we're a little bit better about it, simply because we have a higher percentage of dedicated players who are like chill about the game compared to the legions of scrubs that infest every multiplayer game. But if you talked to somebody in a fighting game, in an anime game, and you said, oh, who should I play, right? You might be asking, I like good normals and like big damage, right? I like that fast, agile expression or that feeling. I like playing a character who feels like a Dark Souls boss. I like being able to teleport a lot and move around quickly, right? You might consider these things about things that you enjoy in your character or multiple characters. And then the player from the anime game, and Guilty Gear is guilty of this, but also Under Night is the one that I'm specifically thinking about, will tell you, actually, you're going to need to filter yourself through the approved list of easy characters and hard characters. And then once you get to an easy character that you like, or a character that you like, or whatever, character you think is cool, character you think is hot, character that you want to be or be like, whatever, you're going to have to say, oh, can I even approach this character? Can I even get off the ground floor? Can I even do buttons into a special move? Because this is Under Night or Guilty Gear or whatever fighting game. And this is hard, okay? You can't just show up and do stuff. You can show up and do stuff. The number of fucking souls I've lost to who do nothing except 5H Gunflame, like the number of Kais I've fought against and lost against who do nothing except 5H delays Greed Sever, like, you can definitely just show up and do stuff. In particular, the reason I'm so hard on this about like Undernight is because back when Undernight was being played more, or Unist, which was the version of the game that I played a lot, there was this chart that I saw which classified all of the characters, and there were like about 20, I think, 25, who into easy to pick up, medium to pick up, hard to pick up, right? Like how you learn to play these characters, how the execution difficulty is. And I would say that in Undernight or in Unist, in that version of the game, there's like Yuzuriha and Vatista and maybe one or two other characters who are actually like genuinely difficult, and then the rest don't matter because it's an anime game and you can cancel any attack into anything else and go wherever you want. You can fly around and just hit people, right? You still have to play the same strike throw as everybody else because this was Unist, and 17-second block strings into strike throw is apparently interesting to some group of people. And I have a specific anecdote where I tried to get one of my friends from a like a gaming club, like a Magic the Gathering club, into fighting games because I had been sort of shilling fighting games off and on at that club. It wasn't the only place I went and wasn't the only place I shilled fighting games, but it was the only place that had enough free space for me to set up my laptop and 2 arcade sticks. So I did that, and I got him to play like Rivals of Aether because it was like Smash Bros. And I got him to play Undernight because that was the game that everybody else seemed to be enjoying, right? So in my infinite hubris, I thought, there's a reason why people like this game. And I tried to get him into it. And even though he had enjoyed Rivals of Aether because it's like Smash Bros., because it was like Smash Bros., he tried to play Undernight and he just bounced off of it. And I think the reason, I don't remember exactly what happens, but I think the reason is that he may have picked like a character, he might not have like vibed with it, right? Not every game is for everybody. But also, like, the difficulty that came from getting into Undernight wasn't, you know, Vatista's negative, and not a negative edge, Vatista's like charge partitioned, charge management combos where you have to do 4 cardinal directions into a launcher, into the dive kick, into a mix-up, are too hard, right? That would, like, showing him the chart of Vatista is too hard and Yuzuriha is too hard would not have helped him. The game, Undernight, was just inherently not very new player friendly. Or maybe the way that I understood it and explained it to him was also bad. Could have been that. I maintain that I think Undernight is actually a terrible game that is not friendly to new players. Because, remember what I was saying earlier about Soul? If you just want to do the basic thing in Undernight, it's mash A, or mash B, or mash C, and you will do about 1,500 damage, or like 15% or something, with an auto combo. And if you want to do something else where you do your manual combo, then you will do about 3,000 or more damage. If you're playing a top tier, you would do like 4,500 damage. And you would get a knockdown, and you would get Okizeme. And when it comes to difficulty, I think we as a community would benefit a lot more from talking about games in terms of how fun they are and what type of difficulty they have, or just embracing them and saying like, yeah, it's really hard and it's really fun, and that's why I play it, right? I'm so sick of all this stuff where it's like, yeah, if you mash jump P as Soul off of Wild Throw, that's just as legitimate as doing a double dust loop dash momentum combo that builds 50 meter and does 40%. These are not the same thing, okay? So don't pretend that they're the same thing. Pretend instead that it's cool to learn and cool to pick up a part-time job so that you can lose to Dizzy and eat Bedman mix-ups all day. That's something you need to pretend about, right? That's something you want to hide. And Undernight was really bad for this, in my experience and in the experience of that guy, because he played it, and he played against my Merkava, and I was not doing the horrible things with Merkava, okay? I was going easy on him. And I remember I played with him for like 10 minutes, and he was like, he sort of nodded once, said, yeah, fighting games. Okay, thanks, man. And then he stood up, and he never came back again. And that guy played a lot of 1v1 Magic the Gathering, and I think, like, you're probably more likely to enjoy Magic and an anime game than you are Magic and Street Fighter. Because the anime game has way more stuff going on that's like a card game, or that's like some kind of nonsense. So, thank you for watching, and thank you for listening to me, and thank you for putting up with me and my infrequent upload schedule. I'd love to hear what you think about combat difficulty, and I hope to have something for you sometime this year. No promises, I don't want to promise anything, but I'm working on stuff. It'll be good. Thank you, and have a good evening.